Hello and welcome to Sunday Live. Notice the difference? No more creaky chair. This was my Christmas gift. Oh, I'm so stoked. It's the best thing ever. Lumbar support. Headrest. Kind of feels like premium economy seat when you go back on a plane. Oh, it goes back just a little bit further. I paid an extra $500. It's totally worth it. It's great. I love this chair. It's like a revelation. It was Britt's Christmas present to me. It's so nice. Honestly. What's happening, people? Sorry, I'm a little late. You know I'm going to be late by now. Who we got here? We got Tone Talk. What's up? We got Lauren. What's up? And who else have we got here? Banjard says I was probably blow drying my hair. I gotta get ready for you guys, you know. You don't want to stare at me well, trust me, you don't want to stare at me like when I roll out of bed. It's mad scientist situations. Who else we got here? We got Harley. What's happening? We got the Stealth Parrot. So many familiar faces. We got Braveheart Reefer up in Scotland. Portland, Oregon in the house. Michael's in PEI. Curtis is in Kansas City. Stealth Parrot, London, Ontario. Nova Scotia, Todd Roy. One of these days I got to get back out there to the Maritime Provinces. I liked it out there. Good vibes. Good vibes. I'll make it again. One of these days. Dan's in Minnesota. So yeah, this chair. If anybody needs a good chair, I got to say, this thing is slamming. It came from, it's an IKEA chair, actually. And I was looking at those human, I think they're called Humankind or something, or human something or other chairs from Relax the Back, and they were really nice, but they're like, even on sale, it was like $800. It's expensive for me for a chair. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not, but you know, some guitar pedals are that much, I guess. Sit in something 8 hours, you should probably be comfortable. But anyway, and I was like, okay, I guess that's just what it's going to cost. But then she got me this chair. Britt got me this chair, and it's from IKEA, and I had no idea to get a chair from IKEA. They're just kind of, I think they're around $250, something like that, which is, you know, totally reasonable. And it's got crazy, like you can lock it in this position. I think it's locked now. Yeah. Or, you know, you can adjust the lumbar support or the headrest or all that. And man, it's so much better than what that piece of crap that I had. So if you need a good chair, check it out. It starts with a J. I can't remember what it's called, but you'll recognize it. It's got, well, let's just take a look at it. See it better. Looks like this, right? And it's super comfortable, I gotta say. I mean, the things we get excited about as we get older, right? So what else? There's that Soldano head down there that is used to belong to Mike Landau, evidently. And I believe Dave Friedman's buying it from a friend. So I said, let me borrow that and listen to it. I want to hear it next to my newer one, which is over there. And I can get them to sound really quite similar. Here's an interesting thing. On the new ones, if anybody's got a new SLO 100 style head, SLO 100 head, not style, but head, they have that switch for the gain on channel 2, on the overdrive channel, that kind of allows you to limit the high gain or whatever. I found that the amp sounds the most like the old one in the middle position, actually, which I found that interesting. It's almost like they've, maybe on the original amps, there was more gain to be had if they eliminated a part or something. And so now there's a switch to do that or something. I don't know, but it's, and I found that I like it the most actually in the middle position, with the less gain, more like the old head. It sounds like it gets really gainy in the upper position and almost like too much for the design or something. I mean, it's cool for some things, I guess, but it does start to collapse and start to sound a little compressed and a little more fuzzy or something. So it sounds most punchy and open in the middle position, and it's still like plenty of gain. Yeah. So that's one thing. But the other thing I did notice is that the old one sounds a little more open. Well, I looked inside and I noticed it's got all GE old American preamp tubes. So very, very, very similar sounding. I could dial them in to sound almost identical, except for this openness. You can even hear it in the hiss. I know there's JJs in that one. So I went online and ordered a bunch of tubes yesterday to populate to the front end. Just new tubes. I've actually got an old Mullard coming that I bought online this week because I like to collect those occasionally and pick them up. But I just bought some of the Chinese 12X7s, as well as I thought I'd try one of those Mullard, Mike Matthews reissue 4004. So I got one of those, and I got what's the other one I got? Dave Friedman says he likes the new EH 7025, which is a new tube. There's been problems with the factory, the Chinese tube factory that produces the Chinese 12X7s. They had a fire or something, they had to move. I don't know what's going on. So it's like basically the supply is really limited to those right now. So he's like, oh, what are we going to do? That kind of thing. And so he found that the 7025EH, which is a new design tube, evidently, is quite good. And he says he likes it. So, and I looked at, everybody says they're, low microphonics, and they're not the most gainy tube in the world, evidently, but in these new amp designs that have tons of gain anyway, that doesn't really matter. Like microphonics and low noise and all that is important. Anyways, yeah, so I ordered a couple of those to check out, and so I'm going to pop them in that Soul Down and then do some more experiments. But isn't that a cool head? It's a cool, it's an old one. I think it's the serial number, I think, says it was made in 88. So it's an original, right when Mike started making them. So, and it does sound really good. So somebody says, did you get those JJ mediums to try? I didn't order any JJ, actually, 12X7s. I thought about getting an 803, one of the long plates, but what I got was the EH, which kind of is a shorter plate, 7025. So and the Mullard 4004, which is a sort of a medium plate Mullard reissue. It's not a real Mullard. I also bought a real Mullard this week that cost as much as all those other tubes combined. But I like to have them around sometimes for the B1 spot in nice amps. Tube geekiness. John says, what did you do to celebrate Christmas other than get yourself an early present with that Destroyer? Yeah, exactly. That was my Christmas present to myself. What did I do? I just stayed home, really. It was like super low-key. And, I went to the beach, which was nice. Just went for a beach walk. And got one of those prepared dinners from Whole Foods. It's great. They cook the turkey. It's a great turkey, actually. It was really juicy and delicious, and stuffing and mashed potatoes and all that stuff. You pick it up and reheat it for an hour, and it's all delicious and fantastic. So that's all I did, and it was just fine. Stayed at home, stayed away from people, basically. Yeah. Angry Shoebox says, from one of those 3 tube factories in the world. Yeah, exactly. There's not very many left, is there? Just not very many. But I guess, there's still tube amps and stuff. So for those 3 factories, I guess it's got to be somewhat profitable when you look at the Mike Matthews and I guess JJ, and I just wish they could make them a little more like they used to and a little more consistent. I don't know. As we get older, I guess I'd love to know the inside scoop on that. Like, it'd be an interesting documentary if anybody was so inclined, with a very limited viewership, but documentary on the remaining tube factories and the expertise that's there. And it would be interesting. Or if there's anybody still in, say, the UK or the States, it'd just be so cool if somebody could go to those places and be like, okay, we're gonna make the best, because it's just like, I don't know. It seems like they've got the tooling and everything's there and stuff. It would just be nice. The Chinese ones are, I've always liked the 12X7s. I always think they're pretty good. And certain select other ones, like for new old stock, sorry, like new production tubes. I've always thought the long plate Sovtek are really nice, especially in the phase inverter of a Marshall. Stan Muso was there in the super chat. He's in Europe, and he sent me €5.49, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Every little bit helps. I appreciate it. I do. John Hutchinson is asking favorite Christmas food or dessert. Definitely just a traditionalist. You know, the typical turkey situations. Maybe the best turkey I ever had on Christmas was when people started doing that deep frying thing. Remember when people used to do that? You get the big, look like an oil vat or something, and then you deep fry it. And then I remember going to a Christmas party where that happened, and it was unbelievable. It was really good. What do I think of Mick Mars of Motley Crue? I mean, I think that that's James asking. I love some Motley Crue. I mean, the first record, you know, like the whole sort of like Too Fast for Love or Live Wire. I mean, it's so cool. That's probably the coolest Motley Crue song to me. It's so cool. It's the cowbell in the middle, and the riff is just cool. It's kind of vicious, and yeah, you know, they lost me a little bit, like around the Theater of Pain. All this when they got the more poppy stuff and all that. Kind of like I like them when they were dirty and sort of dirty, you know, rock and roll, punk rock mixed. Because there was a punk element that I really liked about them. A band is a sum of its parts, you know, and I guess, you know, Nicky wrote cool stuff, and Tommy is an amazing drummer, I think. And then Mick had this sort of signature guitar style, and I remember like Bob Rock talking about it recently when they did the songs for that movie that came out, and Bob was saying it like because they were cutting demos or whatever before, but I don't think Mick was a part of the initial demos or something. And then he said it just didn't sound right. And then when Mick came in, it sounded like Motley. You know, he's a part of the sound. It's just part of the whole thing. So, you know, and you know, he's not like the most like world's most accurate or shredding guitar player or whatever, but he's got a great style that is part of that. I think he was perfect for the band, you know. It's hard to deny, right? And in his band, he's just great. So he got some cool tones too. Really cool tones. Like really just sort of cool. I don't know, just I guess he used a Jose Marshall for a lot of it. And I remember when he was ill, and this is going back a long time, like 20 years, and he was selling a bunch of his amps at Voltage in Hollywood. I remember going in there, and they had like 73 Marshall and some cabinets and some other stuff, and he was selling a lot of his gear because he's got that chronic disease that I think he contends with and stuff. And he, you know, they weren't doing anything, I guess, around then, and he needed some cash. So it's cool that they have been able to, over the years, get back together and do things and stuff. And maybe, you know, I don't know, like, because I think Nicky kind of made most of the dough, didn't he? Because he was like the songwriter. So I'm sure they've done all done fine at this point. T-Mitz is up there in the super duper chat. Thanks, buddy. He says, Merry Christmas. Great to be here with you. Hope everyone's having a happy and healthy holiday. Livewire. Good stuff. I like that. Rock and roll. Who else we got here? Let's see. Ian says Mars is a surprisingly underrated guitar player. From what I've seen, he really never played to his ability in Crue. That's interesting. I'd like to know what else. I know, like, some people say he's got a great, doesn't he play slide or, you know, and oh yeah, Ben is saying he's a great slide player. Yeah, I'd like to hear more of his slide. Oscillation Overdrive says, whatever happened to Mick Mars? Well, he's still doing Motley Crue when they do Motley Crue. I mean, they were supposed to do the tour this year. They were doing a great big tour. And of course, nobody did a tour this year, but they had announced that they were getting back together after, you know, I think they split in 2015 or something. And and they were going to do a little reunion thing, tour situation. And Dan says he bought Mick's old VHT Classic power amp. Yeah, he probably did a wet, dry, wet, full blown thing, I would say, and used that amp or something on tour, right? I'm sure that was his rig for. Is John here? What's up, John? Where are you? I don't see you in the chat, but somebody said John's here. Ah, my good buddy. Well, he's here somewhere, evidently. There he is. What's up? He says at 11:45. He's been here 4 minutes. What's up, John? John, I didn't even mention yet. This is 150 shows for me. This is number 150. And I'm super excited and stoked to have been around that long. And I hope to be around longer. John's got a new pup. Actually, a couple of new pups. So he sends me videos all the time of his dogs playing, and they're super cute. So he's busy. He's busy with them, with new babies at home. And John, check out my new chair. Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. You're going to see me do this a lot now because I couldn't before. Maybe in videos. I don't know. We'll see. Gary says that Crue's maybe last UK gig was Download 2015. Sounds about right. I think 2015 was when they did the kind of supposed to be their last tour. And of course, the last tour is never the last tour. Todd Roy says that Richard Fortis has Mick Mars' old Marshall head that Mick recorded those old Crue albums with. That's cool. I've never met Richard, but I'd love to meet him. We talk sometimes on Instagram, and he's a great guitar player. I still love his, what I've seen of his guitar playing and stuff and what I've heard. And he's seems like a really nice guy. So that's cool that he's got it. It seems like it's a fitting home for the amp. He's a great player. He'll put it to good use. I'm sure he puts it to good use. So somebody's asking about, I think, what drums that I use on my, Stefan's answering a guy named Dirk, and Dirk must have been asking what drums I use on my tracks. Superior Drummer is the main thing that I use lately. I find it so versatile. And when you do different kinds of tracks, anything from, metal to like something super mellow or electronic sounding or something, there's kits in there and grooves and stuff that I can make work. It's just a great tool for getting work done. There's other drum programs I like, but I find myself mostly going to Superior, which is, there's some crossover there from Easy Drummer, because you can use the Easy Drummer kits I started with Easy Drummer 2, and then which I used for a long time and still sometimes use because it's so simple and sounds great. And a lot of the kits that I used to use in Easy Drummer, I'll still use in Superior. So it's just a slightly more advanced program with the mixer's more advanced, and you can do more with effects inside the program and stuff, and mixing the drums in different ways and stuff. But it's a terrific program, the TuneTrack stuff. One thing I'll say about TuneTrack too as well is their installer, like when you buy new things from them, new packages or a new plugin or whatever, their installer and authorization and all that is unbelievable. So it's so great. It's really easy and simple to use, and I think all plugin companies should take note, and check out what they're doing, because it's pretty fantastic. Dan is up there in the top chat, and he says, looking to get a PT15. Check that out, John. He wants a PT15. It's got your name on it and mine. He says, can you talk about the PT15 212 versus the PT100 212 for use with the PT15 head? Creamback's my favorite speaker, so considering getting the 100 cab. That's the cabinet that I used on tour earlier this year when I toured in the UK, because that was what the nice gentleman from Sir, my friend Nigel in the UK, he has some Sir gear there for artists to use and whatnot. One of the things he has is a PT100 cab with the 75 creambacks. So that's what I used with the PT15. It sounds great. I mean, the amp, at the end of the day, the 100 and the 15 have way more in common than they do different tonally. They're not worlds apart or anything like that, especially not on channel 2 and 3. So if you like the creambacks, and I do too, the 75s, go ahead and go for it. And it looks cool sitting on that cabinet too. And I guess the added advantage is with the cabinet is if you do use a 100-watt head or 75-watt head or something like that, you've got plenty of power handling with that cabinet. So go for it. I wouldn't question it. You know, there's that's the 15 cab right there. And it's a terrific sounding cabinet. They both sound great though. They really do. You know, if for anybody that doesn't know, the differences are this one's got the speakers are mounted horizontally with what's this when you mount something like that? I don't know. They're offset, I guess, like that, right? With the greenback in the top where you see the tape. Those are my mic positions. And then there's a V30 in the bottom. It just sounded great like that. And then we tried some other combinations in that cabinet, like creambacks, and that sounded good too. I don't know. There was just something in this cabinet that we liked about the greenback and the V30, so that's what we went with. But in the PT100, you need a little more power handling because it's a 100-watt head, and having a 25-watt greenback there and a V30 at 60, it's not quite, you know, you're asking for trouble for somebody that really pushes the amp. So in that cabinet, we went with the higher power speaker. Another really good sounding high power speaker is that Redback from Celestion. That would be another one that I would listen to. It wasn't out at the time, but I would have listened to it when we were coming up with the PT100 cab. It's a nice sounding speaker. They're 150 watts, so really cool speaker. But anyways, I digress. Go for it if you think you want that you know, the speakers like that and the creambacks in that 212, and don't look back. It's a great cabinet. Peter Lasis is up there, and thank you for doing the super chat. I appreciate that. Peter's up there in the top super duper chat as well, and he says, hey Pete and John, Scott Henderson recently commented he prefers the non-Sir IR reactive load because he thinks IRs need to be 500 milliseconds, not 20 milliseconds. Any thoughts on this? You know, it really depends on what impulse response you're using, and if you make them yourself. A lot of impulse responses, if you look at the actual impulse response and you look at the frequency response of it or whatever, you know, it's like a pulse, and then you can see there's nothing going on or very little going on after that 18.5 or 20 millisecond mark. Other ones have way more going on after that. Not very many, but for some reason, some do. So in those, yeah, you're going to find, but all the Celestion ones, I mean, if you guys want to listen to my video on it, I made a video where I compare all this stuff, and you can check it out. Now, if you want to mix some rooms in, you're not going to be able to do that. But, you know, most cabinet sounds that you hear on recordings, at least a lot of them, and certainly live, are close mics. And for all intents and purposes, I think most people in the industry and stuff like that agree there ain't much going on past 20 milliseconds in a close mic guitar signal. If you're incorporating any kind of room sound, yes, there is, because of course it's a short reverb essentially. So, you know, the short reverbs are quite a bit longer than 20 milliseconds, you know, 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds or 500 is really long, honestly. But for certain room things, you know, like if you want to use the Celestion room mics or the you know, the stuff that comes with the own hammer where they've got rooms. I mean, it could benefit you to go out that far. But when I'm doing that, I just do the IRs in the computer in a plug-in, you know. So take it for what it's worth. If you're doing close mic sounds, long story short, I don't really think it matters that much with, certainly not with own hammer impulse responses or with Celestion ones or ML. The York Audio ones, they go a little longer for whatever reason. I'm not sure what his, you know, everybody's got their different process. And Scott likes to make his own IRs, I think. So, you know, that's something that he likes to do. So who knows? Maybe he's doing it and he notices they're longer or something. He's actually looking at them, you know, with his particular ones. Sky Donut is there in the super chat. He says, Merry Christmas. I'm always running EQ in the loop of my tube amp, taking out 3.5 and 300. Is this normal? I'm always tweaking. So 3.5K and 300 hertz. 300 hertz is a frequency that I cut a lot out of guitar sounds in general. 250 to 300, I cut out of a lot of instruments. I mean, kick drums, and certainly, you know, it's that tubby low mid frequency. So it cleans things up and leaves the bass intact. You know, you can still boost bass at 80 or 100 or something. and do a roll off below 75 or something, but then like boost at 80 or boost at 100, and then do sometimes 190 is one that I find that like around 160 to 190, maybe more like 190, 200, but anyway, somewhere between 200 and 400, depending on the amp and the speaker and everything that you're doing, can help to attenuate those frequencies a little bit. Now the 3.5K thing, that's going to be a little more amp dependent, I think. It depends on your guitar sound, you know. I sometimes boost 2K on certainly on my recordings when I'm trying to get a guitar sound to speak in a track a little more, solos and stuff. I'll go to 2K and not a lot because it'll get overbearing pretty quick, but like a couple dB, like 1.5 dB, 2 dB can, as opposed to raising the fader and boosting the whole thing, and then it just sounds like this loud solo on top of a track. Just leave the solo where it is and try boosting 2 dB at 2K, and all of a sudden, oh, there it is. The guitar is poking through the track just perfectly without everything being too loud. So that works for me. And then, like you say, you're cutting 3.5. Sometimes if I'm 1K, you got a 900 hertz or 1K, you got to dip a little bit. It depends. When you get up there in 3.5, I mean, that can be like a very specific amp. Maybe it's just something that your amp does that you find you need to attenuate a little bit, you know? I don't know. Christian says, hello, Pete, do you use talk boxes? And if you do, how do you capture the mic? Straight to a mixer or some amp? You know, the only talk box I've ever used is the new Dunlop one that's got, you plug your guitar into it, and then it's got a built-in overdrive circuit and stuff, and the sound comes out of the tube, and then you capture it through a vocal mic. And on that tour I did with Classic Rock Show last January, we played Sweet Emotion, and so I needed a talk box, and it worked quite well. It was really cool. It just did it through my vocal mic, and into the PA with its own overdrive built in. But I don't really, to be honest, I've never messed with a true, like, you know, the original style talk box, the Heil or whatever, whoever made them. So that new Dunlop one for in a pinch, it seems to work great. I mean, it sounded, I was like, really? This is how it works? Like it comes through the tube and then it just goes through, okay, you know, and it, with the overdrive built in and all, and it sounded fine. You know, it sounded really cool. And the PA worked. Teammates is asking what kind of chair it is. So this chair I got is from IKEA, and it's great. I wouldn't have thought to look at IKEA, but they've got this killer chair. I'm sure they, you know, they kind of knock stuff off, and you know, that's sort of how they roll, I think. But it's really nice, man. I love it. So no more squeak, and way better for my lower back. M. Joe Fisher is asking the most commonly asked question of all time in modern guitar gear YouTube land, which is Axe Effects or Helix. I don't know, honestly. You know, yeah, I like them both. So they both sound good, and the Axe Effects is deeper. You know, pluses and minuses. Okay. And this isn't to say one is better than the other in any. I would say that the effects in the Axe Effects are probably deeper and more like, you know, a little more like upper end, you know, whatever. The effects in the Helix are great though too, and there's plenty in there I like. That's the delays and stuff. Maybe the reverbs and stuff, you know, in the Helix and, you know, things like that. The rotaries and stuff might be a little more in the Axe Effects, might be a little more whatever for folks that are used to Eventide and stuff. The Helix advantage is the killer. I like the editor for the Axe Effects. I think the Helix is incredibly simple to use, and I can get around on it very, very easily. So ease of use, the Helix gets the edge. Advanced stuff that you can do, the Axe Effects gets the edge, I would say. So it just depends on what's important to you. You know, they're both really good units. You know, you're comparing, you know, it's like I always say, you're comparing the Infinity to the Lexus or whatever at that point. You just make your choice, you know. But both good tones and stuff, you know. What do you guys think? I don't know. We got that new one coming on the scene as well, the Quad Cortex, which I have messed with a little bit. The one I had a little problem with the screen, which was you know, an early beta thing that they've had a thing that they're just ironing out and stuff. So they asked me to send it back, and they're sending me another one. and in order to make a video for them in January. I was most impressed with it, I have to say. It was really, I mean, it does a lot. It's pretty impressive. You know, we'll wait for the video but as far as the profiling thing and all that, they call it capturing. It's pretty next level. It's just so easy to use as well, which is, you know, I think I've talked about learning curves. Wyatt Willis is up there in the super chat. Thank you, Wyatt. I appreciate that. I'm talking too fast. It's the coffee. Anyway, you know how I've talked about learning curves and how I get exhausted learning new things all the time, like new pieces of equipment, diving into manuals and having to figure out how all this stuff works. They've really got that sussed out with when you do something on it, when you do a capture or whatever they call it, you know, there's actually the touchscreen walks you through the steps. Plug this in here. Now plug this in here. Now set this level. Now do this. Okay, you're ready, go. You know, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't have to crack a manual. Pretty amazing, I thought. That was a big deal. That was the coolest thing about it to me. Because a lot of stuff sounds good, but the ease of use of not having to like, because I hate that about gear, you know. I really do. I just like, that's part of why we made the PT15 is to get a great sound with some of these advanced features of this other gear, like the, you know, IRs and stuff like that, and load box and ability to plug in and get good tones, you know, really quick. I'll go back to the Scott Henderson thing for a second, where he was talking about 500 millisecond IRs and stuff. Here's the thing. If I could all the time, there's just the technology doesn't really exist, and sort of does, but it'd be really expensive at this point to have a 500 millisecond IR chip in any piece of gear. It's kind of, that's why it's easier in the computer, because there's so much more processing power in a computer. So for the amount of money it would cost, it's like it wouldn't make sense at this point. I'm sure at some point in the relatively near future, it'll probably, the cost of all this stuff comes down. So we'll see. But here's the reality. The amp sounds great. And when you plug the PT15 and like the Sur reactive load sounds great. You plug an amp into it, you hook it up, plug it into your interface, dial up and go, oh, that's a great sound. And you're playing guitar and you sort of forget then about the gear and you make music and you get work done. And that's what I have found mostly with the, you know, I mean, the 2-notes gear. I used Torpedo Lives on the road going back to 2013 was the first tour I did using a couple of Torpedo Lives with 2 PT100s. And the IRs were going to the PA. Do you think the front of house guy was like, oh, I think I hear, I wish the IRs went out to 500. No, they were, you know, 18.5 in a Torpedo Live. And the front of house guy, you know, he had a nice, I think like a Neumann TLM 103 on my cabinet, a microphone. And he said, let's compare, you know, to the mic. And I had on that tour IRs I'd made myself using the 2-notes IR app thing. I had them loaded in the Torpedo Lives. And he compared the microphone and then listened to the Torpedo Live. And he was like, wow, that's really impressive. He's like, no contest, let's use those things. And we used the Torpedo Live. There was no talk about how long are those IRs? Is it as good as, no, it's a close mic guitar sound. It sounded great. And there was no more, you know, it's just, and then we moved on and got the work done, carried on with rehearsal and, you know, production rehearsals and whatever we were doing. And, you know, I went on tour and used it. And the guitar, that's the guitar on that album, on the live album that I did. That's, you know, we don't think about it anymore. So it's like, you know, at home, us guitar players, oh, we obsess over this and that and these little things. And out there in the real world, you know, we move on, you know, just get work done. Vipas is up there in the Vipas, the super duper chat, the top chat. Thank you so much, dude. He says, happy holidays and thanks for the awesome Sunday shows. I'm struggling to get the iconic Landau Dan Huff 80s clean tones through my Badger 35. There isn't enough sparkle. Curious about compression or EQ that can help. You might ask somebody like John about that. I mean, to be honest, I don't know about the design of the Badger 35, but it could be as simple as, and John's going to hate me for this, but like what if you were to mod it with a bright cap on the volume? because that might be the thing. Is a lot of that sound to me is a scooped, Fendery clean. John didn't design I don't think the Badger 35 to do scooped Fender, blackface style clean tones. It's more designed to do warm Americana edge of breakup sounds, where it starts to clip but sounds pleasing, right? I think. I mean, I've always thought that's what he was doing with that amp, was those warm kind of organic Nashville meets, like that edge of breakup kind of tones. And that's what that amp really excels at to me. Well, when a blackface Fender actually starts to break up, I mean, it can sound cool depending on the speaker you use, but the coolest thing about those Landau tones and those 80s sounds is it's almost like hyper clean Fendery. Who knows what he was using, whether it was amps or, when I think of like, the rack preamps of the day with bright switches and things, like if you take John's preamp, like the 3+ or something on a clean channel, it's much more that sparkly thing. The sound, you'd be more, it's easier to get out of a PT100, on the clean channel with the bright on. John even did on like Steve Stevens amps, he does an even more headroom sparkle thing, I think, on the amps that he did for Steve. And it's that sound, because that 80s thing, and you add some mod, some echo and all that, and it does that sparkly thing. So anyways, I would say that the thing to do might be experiment with some sort of bright switch actually on your amp if you want to keep the same amp and use it. I don't know if that's even a possibility on that amp, because I know the design, but it's just the honest truth is you've got an amp that was designed to do more of a warm, full edge of breakup sound than it is the exact thing you're trying to do. Possibly could be a modification that, all the bright switch on an amp does is it basically allows the high frequencies to bypass the volume control and go through to, pass through the circuit or whatever. So that's why on an old Fender, as you turn up or a Marshall with a bright cap, as you turn up the volume, as it starts to open up, it's like really piercing, and or it can be on a Fender, it can be really nice. On a Marshall, it can be just like crazy. And then the more you bring up the volume, the fuller the sound gets, because you're letting more and more of the frequencies through the signal is what's happening. And then, when it's on 10, the bright cap is out of the circuit. Essentially, you're letting all the frequencies through, or it's still in the circuit, but, everything else is getting through too. I guess maybe that's more accurate. So, you want that sparkle. That's where it comes from on a lot of those tones. Jason's asking if I've ever tried a Bugera amp. I never have. I've never even seen one, to be honest, in the States. I'm sure they're around, but I've never seen one. T-Mitz says the whole, I hope that was helpful. Oh, I got another top chat up there from Rich Monk, so I got to answer that. I'll just do that in a second. The whole IR thing is currently lost on me, says T-Mitz. I spent the last 20 years learning to play and record analog tape or Pro Tools. I guess the 21st century is here, new stuff to learn. It's really just analog, it's really just digital speaker simulation is all it is. You're taking a digital picture of what a mic sounds like on a speaker. That's it. So with an analog filter, something like a Palmer speaker simulator, you're simulating the curve of a guitar speaker, where it kind of like, has a, it's got a resonant thing at 100 hertz or something, and then rolls off like there's no low end, and then it's got a kind of jagged thing and boosts up around 2K, and by 5K or whatever, it's rolling off into the abyss, and there's no more, that sound exists between like 100 hertz and 5K with some jagged peaks and stuff. In an analog speaker sim, you kind of replicate that with some analog filters, and it's a much smoother kind of curve because you can't do all that crazy accurate. Well, with the digital speaker simulation, you can do all the crazy stuff, all the the exact boosts and cuts that happen of a certain microphone on a certain speaker. So that's all an impulse response is it's a way to do that, and also capture a bit of the air of the sound, which an analog sim never gets. It's always got that dry kind of character to it, which some people like. It's just a different thing, So yeah. Yeah. That's all an impulse response is, really. It's an EQ curve with a little bit of reverb thrown in, essentially. Think about it that way, like early reflection reverb generally. So it's sophisticated EQ, essentially. Okay, sorry, there was another top chat there. Rich says, for years I used a Pod Live XT and was amazed at how touch sensitive the drive sound I dialed up was. Mad respect for line 6, but you really have to dive in and customize. Presets don't represent their abilities. I think that's largely true. You know, I've heard some good. Okay, so this week, Britt was actually doing a track, and she was doing an Amy Winehouse cover song, and she played bass and drums on it. And I was like, that bass sounds really good. And she was using, I got her an HX Stomp a long time ago for Christmas or her birthday or something. And so she uses the HX Stomp for all her guitar sounds and bass and stuff. And the bass sound she had was great. She's just got a Squier P bass, you know, and I thought it sounded really good. And it's a preset in there called, it's like a flip top B15 preset. And I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's called Tuck and Go, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Great B15 preset. And I dialed it up. I didn't change a damn thing. And, you know, I just like the way it sounded when I saw her using it, and then I tried it in here and it sounded great. So I actually used it on that video I did for the Bose full range system that I did last week. I think it's the only video that I managed to get out this week was the Bose video. But that's the bass sound on there, is that Tuck and Go preset. Great preset. I mean, I didn't change anything. Generally, I don't use presets, though. Having said that, you're right. You got to get in there and customize and stuff. So I think you're right, Rich. But you can get some great presets. My main thing that I don't really dig on a lot of line 6 stuff, and this doesn't really apply to the bass, it's just the guitar sounds, is the speaker, their IRs. I don't really bond with them for whatever reason. And when I load another third-party IR, you know, which is easy to do on a Helix, they sound way better to me. So I'll always go in and make my own presets and add my own IRs. So that right there throws the preset thing out the window, because of course all the presets come with their impulse responses. But I just think that it makes a big difference when you use your own IRs and load them in there. So I always recommend that to folks with be it a Pod Go or a Helix, or it really improves the sounds tremendously, I think. Thanks, you guys, for all you dudes do in the top chat. You're really helping support the channel. I appreciate it, and helping me to be here. And somebody was asking me this week via email, what's the easiest way to, if I want to kind of consult with you on gear? And really, this is it. I mean, this is my time of the week where I can, be here and do this. So I appreciate all you guys doing the super chat and being here. We got 550 people online. Thank you. Somebody was asking, Preston Smith was saying he saw Britt's recent video and says great sounds, really good sounds, right? She's getting better and better at drum recording too. And she's getting some great mic'd up sounds. She's been improving her microphones and she's just getting better at mixing and stuff. And it's like her sounds are really good. Stealth Parrot says Britt plays everything. Yeah, she plays guitar, bass, and drums, you know. It's pretty cool. I can't play drums. Pretty impressive. John Deshane is up there in the top chat as well. And he says, number one, Thornbucker plus bridge in an Alder Strat with Duncan SSL5s a good choice? I would say so. I like Duncan SSL5s. I think that's a good choice. And the Thornbucker Plus balance is great with single coils. Pot suggestion. I would just give 500K pot, but there's a way to do wiring on your guitar so that the single coils see 250K. I don't know how to do it, but there's a way to do it. A good guitar tech can help you out with that. I would use okay, here's the thing. I think CTS pots are just a drag these days, and everyone will tell you that. So if you can find a pot try some different ones, like as far as a brand of pot goes, sealed, I don't know, like maybe some of those new Dunlop ones or something, Burns, try some different ones and see what you can find. But just the values, there's a way to wire it so 500 or 250K is possible. I just find all my CTS pots get scratchy, and there's only Alpha, CTS, and Burns. I think there's nothing else out there. So it's like we've talked about this before. Pots it's a tough one these days. You buy even if expensive guitars, it's like you're left up to the manufacturer. Peter says EVH pots. Yeah, maybe those. Even the pot on my Wolfgang, which is back there, you can see the headstock right there, is scratchy now though, a little bit. I know, because when I went to do the cathedral, play cathedral with it on the video I did for the EVH chorus, and the pot was scratchy when I was doing it, and I had to really, work it out and then do a take. You just wiggle it until it stops, and then but you can clean them. Somebody's saying Emerson pots. I've never even heard of those. What's that? Chris West. I haven't heard of those. Interesting. So that was the first question there. Still liking the Wilkinson saddles. Yes, they're awesome. This is from John in a super chat. And then the third question was 3 PT100 or Friedman BE100 Deluxe for true Marshall clean to tool heavy. Marshall clean. Well, the PT100 has and I think the BE100 is really more of a Fendery clean than a Marshall clean. A Marshall clean is really just a lower gain version of their drive. So it's really all about, hitting the low gain input on a JCM 800 or something, right? Or, so both the PT100 and the B100 Deluxe are going to have more of a Fendery clean, I think, as far as the design of the actual channel goes. Thoughts on the BE? I've never played a BE100 Deluxe, so I don't know. I'd have to try it. John makes fantastic. Once again, this gets into the Axe Effects versus Helix thing. John makes fantastic amps. Dave makes great amps too. They're obviously, he's one of the most successful amp manufacturers out there right now. So it's hard to say. I just missed a super chat, and I'm going to go down and find it. But you got to try them to know. It's the kind of thing where you try them and then all becomes apparent. I think where you have to play the channel 1 on the amp on both amps and go, oh. And then you have to try the effects loop and go, oh, and I can't answer because they're both great. It's like a BMW, 5 Series versus a Mercedes E or whatever, They're both killer upper end tube amps made in the States. I'm going to go down and find that other super chat there. I just missed it. It was a blue one, and I'll find that in a second. But while I'm here, Combs says he just grabbed an 85 Tokai Love Rock, going to do a conversion to 5860S spec. That's cool. Looking at Wiz, Throwback, etc. Any other thoughts? Thornbuckers, of course. Be great. But, other ones, I like those Wiz pickups. There's a great PAF shootout a guy did recently that you can watch, and I really liked it. And you'll hear that there's more similarity than not with a lot of them. But the Wiz particular, anything that sounds a little brighter and chimier, I always go towards. A lot of them sound darker to me, and the Wiz ones, I think, those were one of the 2 in that shootout that I kind of thought sounded great. So I would look at those. I think I like those old. Somebody's saying Emerson sourced their stuff from CTS. So there you go. I really think there's only CTS Alpha and Burns. I don't know. Burns probably makes the EVH ones. I don't know that for a fact, but I think originally they came with Burns pots. So many super chats right now. I need to get to all of these. Stan Musa said, thoughts on a JMP Super Bass 100 versus a Super Lead. The Super Bass is going to be more, I guess Allman Brothers, or they're just not as aggressive, but cool. I think Peter Frampton's is a super bass. He's got a Jose modded super bass. Loud, fat cleans, warm crunch, though noisy even at low volume. A good tech might be able to sort out some of the noise for you. Could be just wires in the way that they're in the preamp and stuff. The way that you could have somebody kind of try and go through it, but it's just a little bit more of that. It's not as aggressive. So if you think Frampton or Allman Brothers or those tones are going to be super bass circuit. I think Adam from Tool, though, I think his Marshall is a super bass. So there you go. There's always a contradiction for everything, isn't there? I'm going to find that other super chat I missed. I'm going to go down and find it in just a second here. But Disco Scotty says, any particular IRs you would recommend for an awesome Variax acoustic tone? I've replaced my real acoustic with the Variax. The one that I found that I really liked years ago were those free ones that some guy did that they were a Taylor 3 Series guitar, I think. And there was a Sheps mic and a Neumann and a few other ones. But if you Google acoustic impulse response free, it'll probably pop up. And I downloaded them. I thought they were great. Now there's other ones from Sigma. I think they make some that you can try, and probably others out there now too. I bet there's a whole bunch out there that I haven't even checked out. But those free ones, which were a Taylor guitar, that were just, the guy put them up on the internet and they're everywhere, I think. I particularly like the Sheps mic. I remember that. So if you find it, give that a try. Alex B says, when checking out a new guitar, what makes a good one versus a great one? What has to just be there in the guitar versus things? You're reminding me, I promised Robert Baker I was going to. Hey, Siri, remind me in 3 hours to make the Robert Baker video.
Okay, added to today's reminders.
That's how I do that. Otherwise, I forget everything in life. That's the biggest tip you'll pick up from today's video. Just do that with anything you need to remember. You can tell it any date. You can tell it in 3 weeks. You can tell it, remind me to send my sister something for her birthday or whatever. It's fantastic. You all know this already. But for those that don't, let's see. What makes a good one versus a great one? It's an intangible, man. A good guitar versus a great guitar is like, you pick it up and first of all, the feel, okay, I'll give you an example of that Destroyer. When I went to pick it up, I was like, oh God, I hope this isn't a dog and heavy and all that stuff. I picked it up and it was like, oh my God, it's really nice weight, like a nice medium weight. And holy shit, the neck, like it just plays perfect all the way up and down. It's almost like that 60s, when you pick up a nice early 60s SG or something, and it's got that wide, fairly thin, but not too thin, just perfect neck. It's like that kind of neck. And it all the way up and down, it was like, you just know. And then I got it here and plugged it in. It was like, this is a killer. And so it's just this intangible. It's a combination of playability, acoustic tone, weight, the way it sits on your body, how comfortable it is. And you just tuning it up, and whether or not it stays in tune and is easy, is a big one for me, because everything else goes out the window if the guitar doesn't really tune very well, or, if I feel like, and that can be a simple thing to fix too. It can just be the nut or different things. Phil's up there in the super chat as well. Thank you, Phil. He says, Pete, got a 64 Fender custom hand wired deluxe reverb from Santa. That's incredible. Awesome. Have a wonderful 2021, and let's get back to playing live. Thanks, Phil. Thanks to all you guys for doing the top chat. And that sounds like a beautiful Christmas present. That's for sure. I mean, who wouldn't want one of those? I love deluxe reverbs. Just a terrific classic guitar amp, Deluxe Princeton. I'm looking back for that super chat now that I missed. It was a $5 super chat, and I'm going to find it. Let's see. I think it's Dave. He said, I had an amp that I was going to sell sounding harsh in the high mids at 8 ohms through a 212, but sound great at 16 ohms, same cab and speakers. Thoughts? One-way impedance mismatch isn't really going to hurt your amplifier. And if it sounds good, run it that way. People have done it for ages. Harsh in the high mids at 8 ohms and 212, but sound great at 16 ohms, same cab and speakers. It's fine. I mean, these are things that, once again, don't question. Just, you got the tone, move on, if you like it, if it sounds great, just do it. You're not going to hurt the amp. A one-way impedance mismatch, 8 to 16 is fine. The other way is a little more questionably fine. I think you'll be okay. That's my John. Maybe John is still here and he can answer, in a more technical sense. But certain people run their, impedance mismatches all the time for years and don't really have trouble. Vboss is up there in the super chat as well. He says, I should clarify, I love the Badger, just struggling with that sparkly bit. It's the best tone I've ever had. Can't wait to get my King of Tone and Sunface. Thanks again for all the help. See, especially with once you start adding overdrive and fuzz, you'll probably love it into that amp. And then if you were to have a bright circuit, you might go, oh, I don't like that as much with the fuzz and stuff. So herein lies the dilemma, and why you might want I don't know if it's possible or not, but it's something to ask a competent tech or John himself. Is it possible to put a bright switch on that amp? Maybe a push pull on the volume control or something toggle for those sparkly tones when you want them. Maybe it's possible, you know. A little mod. We used to do these things all the time, little amp mods. And now people like, I guess amps come so modded anyway that it's like, you know, but these are things that, you know, you wanted something out of your guitar, you took it to a tech and they put a switch on it, you know, or you wanted something on your amp, you took it to a tech and they drilled a hole and put a switch, you know. And so don't question it, you know, just go for it, I would say. Do you recommend a specific patch cable, says George? Not really. I mean, so many good cables out there. I use Providence a lot because I really like the size of them. The ends are really, the cable is small, compact. It's not that's super beefy and tough to move. So my whole board is wired. Yeah, my whole board is Providence. I do believe. I think my newest board is Providence. I forget sometimes, but and then the ends are these flat ends, but it's custom. So you want, you know, I don't know if I've got one around here that I can show you or not. I probably don't. I tend to lose and misplace things like patch cables. You know, traditionally you would have something like this, right? With the, you know, ends like this. Well, now they make flat ends, you know, that are so much easier to kind of work with. I thought I might have the Providence just have these little round ends on them that are really not round, angled is what I'm trying to say. I can't find any right now. I literally had 10 Providence patch cables and now I can't find one. I don't know where, you know, the one on the ground. I'm going to move on, but look at the Providence ones with the angled small ends. They're really cool. Like them. All right. Let's see here. What else we got? Always listen to this, says G-Man Music while driving my garbage truck. Hey, thank you for collecting everybody's stuff. This is a busy week for that, right? With Christmas and stuff. You're a good man. Thank you, G-Man Music, and thanks for listening. I appreciate you being here. I do. What else we got here? I'm going to move down in the chat. Let's see. What has been my favorite live stream of 2020? Mine has to be the Peter Frampton stream. Yeah, I would go with that. That was so fun and a great natural conversation, as it always is with Peter. Peter, and you heard it in that chat, is such a, you know, he's such a pleasure, and like it's always flows, and you're almost like you forget you're talking to Peter Frampton. I don't know how else to describe it, because he's a legend. He's a rock legend, and he puts you at ease, and he starts telling a funny, and then he kind of, I don't know, it's this weird thing where he starts telling those stories, and you're like, oh my God, he's telling me a story about, like, you know, I don't know, like hanging out with Bowie or you know, working with George Harrison, or like, you know, like, it's like, wow, like, but he does it in a way that's so, like, he's already disarmed you and made you forget that you're talking to a rock legend, you know, and then he kind of pulls you back in, but you're comfortable with it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's amazing, you know, and it's a great quality, because I've known, at this point, I've known quite a few rock stars, and they're not all like that, you know. There's some where you're always kind of on edge a little bit, I would say, you know, and you don't feel that at ease, you know, or something. I don't know how else to describe it, you know. And then there's other ones where they put you at ease, and they're still them, and it's so wonderful. I don't know. He's an amazing guy. For those that haven't checked out his book, check it out. It's so great. It's really, really, really great read. So, yeah, and I really enjoyed that show as well. Really did. And I'll do more. I'll do more interviews coming up, you know, in the new year. Beavis is saying, wait, can you use an acoustic guitar IR to get acoustic tones with an electric? Well, sort of. I'll tell you what, if you've got a piezo style pickup in your guitar, like, you know, there's different ones that Fishman makes and stuff for, say, Strat style bridges or tunamatics and stuff. If you've ever heard that sound, which kind of gets you halfway there. You know, it's like a quasi acoustic. Oh, that's sort of like an acoustic guitar sound. If you add an acoustic IR to that and then do some EQ and a little compression stuff, it's like, well, that's now we're getting somewhere. It's actually really interesting. An acoustic IR on a guitar pickup, I would go about that a different way. To be honest, I would probably use match EQ, which is a thing in Logic, and there's different. I think there's one called Q Clone that's a Waves plugin, where you can examine a it looks at the EQ curve of a sound. This is what match EQ does, and then it looks at the EQ curve of another sound, and then it shows you the difference between the two, and it sort of matches the EQ. So if you put an acoustic guitar, say strummed chord or something, into the EQ plugin, and then you put the same strummed electric guitar chord, just DI coming right out of your guitar into an interface, and you were to record them both, it would look at both of them, analyze them, and then you could say, make the electric one sound as much like that acoustic as possible, and it would generate an EQ curve. And that EQ curve would end up sounding quite a bit, probably when you play your electric guitar through it, like a piezo pickup. Then you would take that and maybe add the acoustic IR to it. And I bet you would be shocked how acoustic that sounds. So it would be a two-step process, I would say, if you were using a typical humbucker or single coil. Of course, then how do you do the match EQ curve? And, you know, you'd have to do this and play it through your laptop. But if you're adding an IR to the sound anyway, you could do that in the computer. So this would be something, you know, I'm describing a unique guitar rig here where somebody would have an AB box, one side going to an electric rig, and then the other side maybe going to a laptop and an interface with a stereo out or something, and that would be somebody's acoustic sound. These are the neat things that you can do these days. But you know what I'm saying? You want to EQ it to sound as much like a piezo acoustic first, and then add the IR, and then maybe do another EQ after that. And it would be pretty close. Why did this screen get all blown out, the light all of a sudden? Crazy. What else we got here? Let's see. Just going to the bottom of the chat, and DW says, Pete Thorn, thoughts on using Univibe Basque pedals with PAF-ish humbucker guitars? I always see people using them with Strats, but rarely with Les Pauls. I wouldn't hesitate to use a Univibe on a Les Paul or a, you know, yeah, go for it. You're right. I mean, we think of Univibes as, I don't know, I guess it's Gilmore or Trower or different folks like that are kind of Strat players, but maybe that was just like the time, the bluesy. There might be something with like adding effects to humbuckers, because humbuckers are thicker and a Univibe is a gooey kind of warm thing. So maybe it gets too much in that direction, and maybe they speak a little better through with a Strat. I tend to think like even Hendrix with a Strat, you know, when you're using fuzz faces and things like that, and vibes, obviously, single coils might have just been a preferable thing because of the added top end and spark, you know, the sound of a Strat, you know. And then you take a bunch of high end away because of capacitance and effects and stuff. Maybe the whatever remains for top end was desirable with the Strat. So nowadays, you know, you got humbuckers and you got way more variety of humbuckers, and, you know, you can tweak them in different ways, and there's buffers and things you can do to retain the top end. And, you know, even the Univibes out there, like something like the Vibe. What was the one from Dry Bell? You know, it's got an option, I think, for buffer on it, and one sounds brighter than the other in the two switch positions. And so you've got you got vibes out there that probably work better with humbuckers, is my point, than the original Univibe units. So, so I think it's totally possible to get good Univibe sounds out of a humbucker. Sorry, I slowed down there. I just felt the coffee go. Better fuel up. Peter Laces, what's up, man? He's there in the super chat, and he says, thanks for doing this and all the great insights. Any plans for a John Suhr signature guitar model demo? I'd love to do that, actually. How it compares to your signature Suhr. It's pretty similar because he used the Wilkinson bridge. He used some unique wood. I love that guitar that he did. You know, the pick guard is really interesting on his guitar. It's made out of how the hell did they do it? I think it's like painted bakelite or something. I can't remember exactly. John will kill me because I'll get it all wrong. But it's actually finished, I think, and it's really gorgeous. And that's one of the more unique things about it, and it's really beautiful. So if I always tell them, you know, it's like the Aura or that guitar or whatever, like, you know, lend me one and I'll do a video, because, you know, I do have to do a video still. For those that haven't seen, let's just talk about it for a second here, because I promised I would do this and I haven't done it yet because I've just been caught up doing stuff. But let's show you this. There's almost nothing else like this on the market. This is their little MIDI box that allows you, with a TRS style or TS style foot switching jack on an amp. This allows you to add MIDI switchability to your amp. So you MIDI in and out here, and then this goes to your amp's foot switch jack. And if you've got a pedal board based or rack based rig and you want to add MIDI switching to your, you know, and maybe you don't have a available output on your switcher, you know, what do they call those, you know, relay style switching or whatever they are. I don't know, on the, you know, the 1/4 inch style switch jacks, function switches or whatever on your switcher available. You can add something like this, and it's a great way to add MIDI capability to any amp. So the PT15, we had some requests for this because I said, let's not put MIDI on the PT15 because I wanted to try and save as much cost. You know, there were certain things that we didn't do on that amp, like say adjustable depth or MIDI, you know, all these things add. So it's another $100 to the, you know, the end price to the user. So I was like, let's limit that stuff so that we can include the load and the IRs and the sort of those new features that a lot of people, I think, will find super useful. Well, there was a few people that wished it had MIDI. Of course. So, you know, because the PT100 has MIDI. So we made this, you know, I should say Kevin made this. I didn't have anything to do with this, but I thought it was a good idea. He came up with this, and it's a great, you can use it with any amp. You know, you got a Marshall DSL or something, you want to add MIDI capability, there you go. Great little unit. So I got to make a little like 60-second video for that thing. Christopher Butler is up there in the super chat, top chat, and he says, Pete Thorn and John Suhr, I am set on some passive noiseless replacements for my EMGS set in my 90 American Standard Strat. Any experience or feelings on ZVEX Z-Core Vintage Hot versus a Kinman Gilmore set? I didn't even know Kinman made a Gilmore set, do they? They're made in Australia, I think, right? Kinman pickups, noiseless situations. You know, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. Haven't tried them, so I can't say. I mean, the EMGs are a classic, you know, an EMGS set that's a classic thing. There's enough recordings where you can probably garner what they're going to sound like. I mean, this, once again, sort of like I was saying, like single coils with univibes and fuzz faces and stuff. That was a thing to add. You know, it was like the primitive adding clarity to the guitar sound when you're adding things that take away clarity. The EMGs were maybe the next evolution of that, where it was like, okay, now the whole guitar is buffered and quiet, and you can now, you know, use tons of effects and rack stuff. So that there was some big in the 80s and stuff. Maybe before we got, you know, external buffers and things like for pedal boards all figured out and all that for the masses. EMGs were the easy way to, you know, which would not work with a fuzz face, but you can't have a buffer in front of a fuzz face or it just doesn't sound good. But anyways, I digress. I don't have enough experience. Maybe John's got, you know, all these different pickups. I'd love to try them all at some point. But you know what would be amazing if I had 10 of the identical guitar all set up with all these different single coils and I could try them all, but these aren't things I get to do. I'll tell you, my favorite single coils these days, to be honest, are just the MLs, which are, they call them a V63 now, the Suhr V63. They sound so good in my red, this guitar. Really, really amazing sounding single coils. Really like them. It's I've decided that's my favorite, even over the V60 LPs, which I've got in many guitars and have liked for many years. But this one, they're just great. They sound great. I have a video coming out for a thing called the Zero from Thermion, I think is how you say the company, from Spain. It's a preamp pedal that also has a power amp built in, but it's kind of a pedal board based amp thing. And you can hear those pickups and how beautiful they sound really clearly in this video that I've got coming out. I think I'm going to put it out on Tuesday, because it's basically a DI sound with some of the added tone shaping of this DI. And it's a gorgeous sound, really, with this preamp, and the reverb that comes in this Zero preamp thing is beautiful. It's got internal reverb that is most impressive. So you can hear the pickups really clearly, but that's the sound that I'm talking about. So Harley Hex says, are we going to see a new episode of Amps in the Zone with that Soldano? Maybe getting in the zone with the old one as opposed to the new one. You know, I don't see why not. It's a classic amp at this point, and it's got a unique sound, the SLO. And yeah, I would like to do that, actually. This one used to belong to Mike Landau, and it's an 88, I think. So it's an original. You know, it's a pretty amazing sounding, actually, for that. It does sound good. And like I say, I think Dave Friedman is going to buy it from the guy that's selling it. And so I borrowed it for a minute just to compare and stuff, because I like to educate myself. And it is, for that sound, it's a, you know, Soldano has it's got that kind of like big grain distortion thing to me, but a very full sound. And there's a bit of scoop. There's sort of a scoop thing to it generally going on, and it's a classic sound. It's a different sound, and I find it's a unique tone that works well. I still like, overall, I prefer the Marshall thing, traditional Marshall sort of voicing, which is why my amp has that, you know. But I like different colors too and different flavors, and for that, it's unique. And like I say, with this one versus a newer one, I did notice that this one sounded a little more open. That was the main thing. You can even hear it. An interesting thing to listen when you're comparing amps sometimes, especially in the top end, is listen to not playing. Listen to the hiss. So on an amp switcher, I know it sounds crazy, but on an amp switcher like this is my amp Pete, you can hear it rattling because I accidentally busted out these things, and they're floating around inside there, so I need to open it up and fix them. But anyway, this is the switcher remote for my amp switcher, and it's got an A/B switch on it, so it's amazing because you can dial up 2 amps going into the same cabinet mic'd up in the other room or a load, and then I can just hit A/B and listen to the 2 amps go right back and forth. So it's a real easy A/B. And so with the SLO 100, I was able to go right back and forth. If you just listen to like when you're not, I'm saying bypass, not playing, and you go back and forth, listen to the hiss, you know, and you can hear this open quality to the presence of the amp or whatever, or the super top end. And the other one has more going on. Now, I know the new one's got JJs in it, and I hate those friggin' tubes. So that's why I went online and spent $150 ordering some new tubes yesterday, because I'm going to populate the whole new one with different tubes and see, because I was like, I got to look at the front end of this amp, see what's in it for tubes. And it's loaded with old GE 12AX7s. So it's like, oh, not a fair fight. I got them very close, except for that open top end that could be easily attributable to those damn JJs, you know. So the problem is, I'm not blaming it on, you know, the folks that make those amps. It's really hard to find good 12AX7s these days, you know. Some people like the JJs because they sound warmer. I think they sound like you put a blanket on the amp, you know. I'd rather turn down the treble in the presence than have my amp limited by the, you know. I don't like things that cut high end generally, because the amp's got a treble and a presence control on it. My guitar's got a tone control. So I don't want I like things that sound open, you know. On an old Marshall with great tubes and stuff, when you roll down the volume, you know, it's Eddie Van Halen when he rolls down for the clean sounds. That sparkle, that crazy sparkle, or an AC30 that's got all that chime, people call it, you know. I don't like when an amp has all that dulled out of it with tubes, or, you know, I don't like it when the guitar cable's got too much capacitance and is limiting that stuff. It's lossy to me. I don't like lossy. I like lossy if I want, via the tone controls. So that's just always where I'm coming from. All right. David says, like your videos, keep it going. Thanks, man. What string gauge are you using currently? I use Ernie Ball 9.5 to 44. They're called Primo Slinkies, and I really like them. I really dig them. It's a good feel. I moved a while ago from 10s to 9.5s and very happy about it. Chris Rogers says that he has a 69 Les Paul Gold Top Deluxe looking to get a new mini humbucker that doesn't feed back and has a fatter tone. I don't think there's a hell of a lot of options out there. I would probably look at Duncan, and see what they've got. And, if you want something they don't do, maybe the Custom Shop or something. I think probably they've got something that they can. I haven't looked at. I've honestly, I'll confess, I've never owned a guitar with mini humbuckers, so it's just kind of hasn't been my thing personally. But that's what I would look at is what probably what's Duncan got. Maybe Lawler or something, or maybe Fralin actually. I would look at Fralin if they've got something, and they're not going to be bad if it's a Fralin and Duncan. See what they've got. I know that's kind of a generic answer, but unfortunately, I don't think there's tons of them out there. Maybe some people in the chat have suggestions. Yeah. Got to spend a fortune by old stock Bugle Boys, says Keith. I love those tubes. They're the greatest. That's my favorite over Mullards. Bugle Boys I've got them in, I think there's one in my SL68 in the first tube slot. They sound amazing. There's like everything's there and they just sound like great. I don't know. Terrific. Okay, what else have we got here? Always better to have plenty of treble and dialed down, says Stefan. I agree. Don't neuter the tone with the cables and all that. Yeah. Any opinion on a Gibson Midtown? I don't know what that is. Is that a cool guitar? Let's see. Gibson Midtown. Who out there knows what this one is? I've never seen one. Looks like what is it? Kind of like an inexpensive, slightly inexpensive 335 style guitar. That's cool. Like a dot neck. Yeah, it looks like they go for around like 1,100 or 1,200 used. Looks like a nice guitar. I've never played one. I like some of the alternatives to the, what was the 339? I really like that guitar. Yogi used to have one, play it with Chris Cornell. It was like a small body 335. I like that guitar a lot. A little easier to get around, very cool. Yeah. What? Okay. DW is suggesting RFT tubes. I think they're cool. They're like a gainy. They're like the vintage version of a Chinese 12AX7. Like a hot, gainy, cool in a Marshall. I've got some of those old RFTs around. So all these tubes, are split into different amps and stuff now. I don't know where I put them all. Only got a couple left. That's why I bought that old Mullard this week, because I was like, I need a few more of these around. So hopefully it won't be a dud. Let's see. Somebody's struggling to get a decent low gain sound out of their Bad Monkey, which was a kind of a Tube Screamer clone that came out in the 90s, I think. Going to run through a Fender Blues Deluxe, and I love the slight breakup tone with the Strat. Run the output higher, I always say. Tone control low, drive low, output high, or volume. Out of all the high gain pedals you demoed lately, which one would you put on your board? Probably the coolest was the Carl Martin, the Plexi Ranger, just from because I love treble boosters and I love Plexi. So I love that thing. Let's give it props. Here it is. The small box is great too, but it's a little more like a straight up 50 watt JMP or something. This one, of course, with the treble booster, it's a little different because you've got that in there, so you can hit it with the snarly boost. Great pedal, really, really good. That other one I did this week, the Aftermath, that's cool too, but it's a much more modern gain, full distortion kind of sound. We got 558 people online. Thank you all for being here. It's 12:52. I'm going to go another half an hour or so. It's John Deschane up there in the super duper chat. He says, hi again. How does the Thornbucker Plus in the bridge sound split in a Strat with SSL5s? Will it cop a single coil tone well enough? I don't have mine, so I can use it single coil on its own, but split with the middle pickup in that guitar, it sounds awesome. The Thornbucker with a single in the middle. I've always been able to get a good, I've got it in another guitar, my White Sir Classic S. The Thornbucker splits great with a single in the middle. Does it sound exactly like two singles? No, but it's really close and completely fine. Like to the point where when I'm recording and I'm like, oh, I want that number 2 position or 4, depending on, what era you come from. But, with the humbucker split and the single coil, do I want to pick up another guitar? So I've cut a part on that guitar and it's like, okay, now I want to do a double with the split position. Do I want to pick up a guitar with 3 single coils and tune it and go through all that? No, let's just get this part done. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a good, or live where you're like, yeah, I need that good, the in-between position sound. It's fine. It sounds great. Not exactly as cool as 2 great single coils, but really, really, really good. Your mileage may vary, but probably not. I think you'll probably feel the same way. Maybe you won't. If you live in that position on 2 single coils, maybe you would be ever so slightly disappointed and you'd be like, oh, this isn't as cool. I doubt it, though. I think you'd be like, this is great. Because, of course, then you hit the bridge and you get a humbucker and it's more of a soul guitar. Have you ever tried a Blue Guitar Amp 1? I have not. That's from Carlos. I heard, I played a gig with the gentleman that designed it last year. I guess it's last year still technically. Yeah. With Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan and, these great guitar players, Chris Buck. I had to be on the same stage with all those dudes. That was stressful. They were great guitar players and bass player. But I think I held my own. I hope so. Anyways, what was my point? Oh yeah. The designer of, the Blue Guitar Amp 1, he was the fellow that put the jam together, and he was using one, and I thought it sounded really good he was using it through like a little 112 cabinet or something. He sounded great. I know a lot of people like that thing. Jennifer Batten, I think she uses it. Seth B says he's looking for recommendations on a clean preamp pedal, Nuneber Neuron set to clean, 2 notes the clean or something else. Yeah, the Neuron is really nice. The clean I haven't messed with that much. This thing, I'll just take a picture of it because it's easier than picking it up because it's all plugged in right now. This is the Thermion thing that I'm putting out a video of. Yes, it's big, but it's actually an amp. It's got a built-in 40-watt stereo power amp thing. This is the Zero. It's not that big when we think about amps, that thing sounds amazing. And the reverb in it, we'll wait till you hear it. The reverb in it's incredible. So it's got cabinet emulated analog outputs. And then it's also got the power amp built in. And whatever they've done to the power amp, it's a Class D power amp, but when you turn it up, it distorts in a really, really guitar amp-like nice way. The cabinet emulated outputs have that distortion and coloration on them. The cabinet emulated outputs don't have that distortion and coloration. It's more like a preamp with an EQ, and it's beautiful for clean. It sounds like really nice, and then you can put drive pedals in front of that if you want. The amp outputs, in other words, the power amp outputs, have some distortion when you turn that up. So there's even more character. So I guess it's like it'd be like having a preamp output on an amplifier or something, and you get that sound, but there's no distortion or anything on the cab emulated outs. And then on the speaker outs, there's that amp coloration and stuff. So it sounds a little different depending on what output you're using. But bar none, if you want a clean preamp, I would say that thing, it sounds really good. You'll hear it. It's like the clean tones are beautiful. Just add a little compression and then turn on the reverb, and that's the sound of the main guitar part in this song that I did. I just a little bit of my Wampler compressor, my Ego comp, and then that thing stereo, because the reverb in it's stereo. It's really beautiful sounding. Isn't that Sir MIDI box basically the same thing as an RJM mini amp gizmo? Yeah, that's Steven. Yes, it is, But I don't know if does RJM still make that thing? Because I remember looking, and they may have. There was one they made, and I know they discontinued it. I think. This is really, really tiny, obviously, and is a little more like it's just so simple and small. And I think these. I don't know. Let me see how much these are. This is the micro MIDI control. I'm gonna price on it. MIDI. $119.99. So it's something you can buy right from Sir. They've got they're selling some things directly from their online store now. So this is I'm sure you can get it from dealers too, but it's something you can buy right off of their website for $119.99. A simple solution. I think the mini, the RJM amp gizmo is. See, I don't even know if you can get them anymore. I've seen a used one for $360. It's way more than double the price, right? And I thought they discontinued this thing. So you might be able to find a used one. $229 was the original. I don't want to talk out of turn here. Musicplayers.com has an article on it. That says it was $229, but I'm seeing used Sweetwater mini amp gizmo manual on RGM site, but I'm not seeing any for sale new. So yeah, somebody's here saying they found a used one for $66 on the gear page, but anyways, tough to find. This is something you can get right now and order it online for $119.95. There you go. Okay. Seth B is there in the super duper chat. He says, "Oh, that was the one I already did on the clean preamp." All right. Oops. I hit up the Duders thing there. And, well, I didn't mean to highlight that, but I did anyway. So there you have it. The Duder, how you doing? Okay. What else have we got here? I missed Thomas Wolf's super chat. Somebody's saying, okay, let's go back and find that. Sorry. Sometimes I get off on tangents and I miss things. Thomas Wolf super chat. I'll go back and try and find it. Can somebody tell me what it said and just post it, and I'll look right at the bottom because my chat will only go back so far and I've missed it now terminally. Sorry. Help. Somebody tell me what Thomas was asking. In the meantime, have I ever had a chance to play with Dan Warner? I don't think so. No, I have not. Thomas Wolf had a chat. Hard question. If there's a curse on you, you can only use one guitar, one amp, and one effect for the rest of your life. Which gear do you choose? That was Thomas Wolf in the super chat. I don't know how I missed all these. I'd take a PT100 in my signature Sir guitar, and for an effects unit, kind of pick a multi-effect like a Helix. I would probably just take a Helix and a PT100 and because I can hook it up 4-cable method and do everything I need to do. Helix HX effects. Honestly, then I got echo and reverb. And I got a PT100 and I got my signature guitar, and that's the exact rig that I used on my clinic tour, a little over a year ago, and got great sounds. I could do everything I need to do, to be honest, with that rig. Helix HX effects, PT100 or PT15 IR, and one of the two amps and my Sir signature guitar. I'd be fine for the rest of. Give it to me. Throw any session at me. Okay, I guess I can't play lap steel or something, but I can't play that anyway, so it's a non-issue. Dave Falk says, "Got a run, mate. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge on gear. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Dave. See ya." Man, 119 is a killer price, says Steven. Yeah, or Stefan, sorry. Yeah, they made a really cool little box that, this is part of like you got to look around out there because there's so many distortion pedals and there's so many, but what's one little cool niche thing you can make that nobody has? And this is one of them. I don't think you can get that mini amp gizmo anymore and it did a lot anyway. It was like a little more, this is just very basic because a lot of amps have like a single, clean, dirty channel. but somebody's got a MIDI pedal and they want to be able to, whoops, sorry about that. It was probably really loud when I hit the mic. Anyway, solves a problem for certain select group of guitar players. How do you boost volume for solos? A volume pedal or boost pedal in the loop? Actually, I use that's from Pasco. I use 3-channel amp. So my channel 3 is my volume boost. That's honestly how I do it. If I had to do it a different way, if I had a 2-channel amp, yes, I would use a boost of some sort in the effect loop. And it would be the last in the chain of things, and it would give me a little volume bump. It's another way you can do it in the effect loop, because then you're going to boost in the power section where the sound is still relatively clean, hopefully, unless you're running on 10, but it's still relatively clean. You'll be able to get a little bit of a volume bump. Double Life, a tribute to the Cars, says the Quad Cortez looks small and everyone demos them on a desk. Were you able to step on it without hitting more than one switch? Okay, I did notice the switches are relatively close together. You're right. Didn't try that, but I did look at it and go, those are relatively close together. Might have an issue if you're wearing hiking boots. It's something to consider, I guess. But when you make these things, that's right there. Put it up on the screen. When you make these things, you got all these considerations, and you don't want to make a unit bigger just so that people can wear certain shoes. I guess when you're using it, you learn to dance around these things and make it work. Think about some people's pedal boards and the way that they've got pedals configured. Like, they figure out how to tap dance on it. And it's like, it is what it is. It is small. I know they've been showing it in pictures with a 15-inch MacBook Pro to kind of compare it. That it's even smaller than that. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. Let's see. Pete, have you ever used the very old Bill Lawrence L100, aka Lawrence Super Distortion? Never, actually. The sound of it was popularized on early Aerosmith songs like Mama Kin. I should listen to that for the tone. Isn't it an L500? Or is that a different pickup? I always thought the double blade, look at it, sure. I always thought the double blade Lawrence L170s cream. Oh, that does look like a Super Distortion. I've never even heard of this pickup, to be honest. I didn't know they made this. I only know the Lawrence L500, the blade one that Nuno uses and stuff. That's very interesting. I mean, it's basically a Super Distortion clone, isn't it? It even looks. Does it have hex pole pieces? I think it does. Pretty interesting that they use that a bunch of people made a like. I guess the Duncan Super Distortion was a bit of a revolution, wasn't it? Because it was one of the not Duncan, the DiMarzio Super Distortion, because there was no aftermarket pickups, so they were kind of like the original, like, to come up with a pickup that was so different, like with the ceramic and hot and all that. It had to be like, whoa, you can get a crazy sound out of this thing. That's pretty different than. It's still one of the most different sounding pickups to me. Like a Super Distortion doesn't work for everything, but it's like, certainly is a, it's interesting. Yeah, you kind of make listing ended. It was $35. If I could buy one of those, I would, and include it in that pickup shootout that I'm going to do soon. Anyways, let's see here. Mr. Vi, I don't think it's Steve. He bought a Randall 103 Lynch box, but not the one with the modules. They are built in. I see. It's just a 3-channel amp that doesn't have the igniter style modules. The Super V that they are built in, I have 3 channels: the Super V, the Judge, and the Unholy Grail. Maybe they are. I don't know if. Sorry, dude. I don't know what you mean. Like if they're. If it has the modules or doesn't, or there's just included, but 3 channels: the Super V, the Grail, the Unholy Grail, and the Judge. I know that George messed around with those. I don't know how much he used them, but the Randall modular design in general, they were cool. I mean, I used one on tour. Maybe folks don't know that, but like 2003. when I went out with 40-foot Echo on tour, I recorded most of the 40-foot Echo record using a rectifier, and that top hat actually made it on some tracks. And then I went on tour, and I had hooked up with Randall, and they gave me one of those 4-channel preamps and a power amp to take on tour, and I built a 12-space rack with all that stuff, and that was my tour rig. So I used this stuff, and I used to use like the Recto module, the Bassman, maybe the Top Boost, and maybe a Plexi or something, I think. But I enjoyed using that stuff, and since then, I guess it's become, more of the synergy sort of based off of these designs. Doesn't really help you with what you've got. I remember the names, the Judge, the Super V, and the Unholy Grail, but I haven't tried those specific ones. But my guess is it's probably pretty damn cool. They were the only thing about those amps, and I'm sure you can agree, they're heavy. Man, are they heavy. The heaviest head I've ever picked up in my life is the 100-watt Randall 3-channel. I have one. I still have it. It's in my storage. 100-watt, big transformer. Like, it is the heaviest damn thing, but I keep it because I'm a hoarder. No, because it's actually pretty cool. The sounds are, they're, I don't, with the variety of stuff we have these days, am I going to use it? I don't know. It might be something I should sell, but they're cool. They do sound good. They did sound good. Thoughts on the Marshall 6100 and or Yngwie J. Malmsteen signature model? The 6100, when it came out, I liked it. And I know it's the amp. I thought it was the amp that Ty Tabor used on Ear Candy. But he might have told me in the interview I did with him on my channel that wasn't right, that he used a different amp. I'm not 100% sure. I thought that's what I read in an interview, that he used that 6100. And I thought that for years because I loved the sound of, the song, The Train by King's X. How many King's X fans out there? That guitar tone is amazing on that. So I was always like, if that's the only sound that amp made, I'd be fine with it. It's a great Marshall drive. But I know they have a reputation for being a nightmare in the sense that they overheat, and the clean channel people used to complain about, and they were like unreliable, let's say. So that's my take on the 6100. I like that one recorded sound that now I don't even know if it was actually that Marshall, and I know that they're somewhat unreliable. Now the Yngwie model, cool. I thought it was really cool. Like, it had the built-in OD250. It was basically a Plexi, but it had, I think, some sort of master volume, maybe post-phase master, which is really interesting. And, a couple cool features built in. So, and they discontinued it. I always thought that was dumb. It was like, you made a more usable Plexi with, gain in it, and, the overdrive 250 and all that. And then they discontinued it. I mean, maybe it was a business thing with Yngwie. I don't know why that happened, but, pretty damn cool. Yeah. So if you found one, it'd be a cool thing to have, maybe, I'm sure it's every bit as, tweakable inside as any Plexi Marshall. You probably get in there or design like, the reissues and all that, where you could get in, tweak some stuff. And, if you wanted to mod it and all that, be an interesting one to send to somebody like Friedman that does things like that and see what he would do to it. I liked it. Rosebud's World says, do the neighbors hear you rocking out? No, not really. Maybe a little. Is a Mighty Mite and a Super D the same thing? T-Mit 73. For all intents and purposes, the equivalent design Mighty Mite is probably pretty hard to tell apart. There's a guy that actually did a sort of EVH pickup shootout where he used the Mighty Mites. Both, there was a sort of more PAF strength one, but it was a ceramic magnet, so that throws everything out the window. But it was a lower wind, and then there's the 14K one with the ceramic and a super distortion in that video, and you can listen to them. They're in different guitars, so that also, take it for what it's worth, because it throws the comparison off a little bit. But you can hear in that video that they're more similar than different. I'll say that. So I'm actually going to compare, a Mighty Mite to just super distortion in the video that I make in the same guitar, so you'll be able to hear. I don't know yet, but I'm going to do it. We're going to check it out and see. Thomas Wolf in the super duper chat. Thank you, sir. He says, thank you so much for your great channel and amazing live chat every Sunday. This is the weekly highlight in sad times. Thanks, dude. Appreciate that. I know, like I always say, I've sort of forgotten, you know, when I sit here and talk about gear, I forget about the craziness, and things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. It's true. It's true. Bbot C says he has an ear candy Japanese version that has a bonus track. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was such a thing. I always learn things here every week. I'd like to hear that because I love me some King's X. Pete, should I use my 212 Mesa vertically or horizontally? Sound-wise, not the same. Which Mesa is it? Depends if it's a horizontal or vertical one. I would use it probably however it was designed. But nothing saying that you can't set it on its side or turn it around or face it to the ground or all these things that guitar players used to do. Experiment to get your sound, I would say. That's the number one thing. Jim says, Pete, are you going to try out, or when are you going to try out the Quad Cortex? So I had one here, and long story, but I had to send that one back, but they're sending me another one. And I made some of their profiles, or they call them captures. And yeah, I'm just waiting to hear back, actually, when another one is headed my way. I'll make a video like I do where I do a bunch of tones. It's impressive. I'll say that. Gary says, Pete, are you a Leslie West fan? Sadly passing recently. Yeah, that was, you know, it's really sad to hear that. I think he had some, you know, not an easy time, you know, and I'm sorry about that. You want to hear that, you know, somebody, when it's that time, just passes away in their sleep peacefully, you know. But, you know, he was an amazing guitar player, and John is one of his favorite guitar players of all time, Leslie. He was a huge Leslie fan, and you know, he has an affinity for Les Paul Juniors and stuff like that, because I think largely because of Leslie. It was amazing. I'm sorry to see him go. It's been a tough year that way, hasn't it? Crazy. Who else have we got here? Let's see. Rohan says he decided to work through Eruption on this break. I'm using an old video you posted. It's very helpful. Thank you for watching. Here's the one thing that I got wrong in the Eruption video. I'll show you right now. Just, you know, this lick, the classic. So, right? I don't even know how to describe it. You pick the open high E string. Right? I went like this, I think, in the video. So now I'm playing, can you even hear the difference? I'm playing the E all on the second string now, the E at the 5th fret. And then going down to the, you know, the flat 5 there on the 3rd string. Right? Or, which is, the first time I do it, I play it on the 2nd string. And then after that, you skip over to the high E string to play the. Right? Can you hear the difference? Or. That's the one thing I got wrong in the video. It sounds almost exactly the same. But there's something about doing the lick on the high E string where you play the E open. It's the same as I'm the One, right? That part of I'm the One, right? He does the exact same lick at the up 2 frets. Right? And he does it, you know what I'm saying? So it's, and I didn't know that back then in 2008 when I made the video. It's one of the things I learned later. But anyways, just put the repetitive high E as an upstroke on the, you know, on the first string. And that's the one thing that I didn't do right in the How to Play Eruption video. Same note, different place I'm playing it. That's the only thing. Do you do the E on the second string or do you do the E on the open first string? Probably sounds more different plugged in. Well, it's the open note versus the fretted note. And it's just how he played it. And it's got a little more snap to it because it's open. So it's the open string versus a fretted note. That's the only thing. Yeah. So there you have it. Let's see. Oh, somebody up there in the top chat just popped in there. Harley says, when you did the video with Steve Vai's modded Marshall, did you use that through the SUR reactive load as well as the cab? I think I only used it through the cab. I think I got a good mic'd up sound and I just went that way with it and had it raging through the cabinet in the other room just because, it seemed like the right thing to do. So yeah, pretty sure in that particular video. Excuse me, I'm burping. What time is it? 1:18. I'm going to hang another 10 minutes or so, go 2 hours, and then I'm going to split and get on with my day. I need to finish the video for that preamp, the Zero. So I'm going to do that today and do some other things. Your thoughts on the Headrush pedal board, says Andrew. I like the Headrush stuff. They're kind of like the other modeler that has a devoted following, and so and many of my friends, like Tracy Guns, he uses one, and I think Neely uses one too. They sound really good. They're derived from, I believe, wow, I got more people online than I've had for the whole show. 573. Maybe I should hang longer. We'll see how it goes. What was my point? Yeah. They came from the old Pro Tools modeling rig, right? Which was, what was it called? I don't even remember what it was called now, but they got the technology from that. Their particular, their models, that's where their starting place, which the Plexi always sounded good on, that original Pro Tools. What the hell was that thing called? Does anybody remember? I can't remember right now. Anyways, and then they did the touch screen, so that's neat, And there's also a simplicity to it that I like about the Headrush. It's just simple in the drag and drop. There's not too many amps and not too many effects, and I seem to remember the internal cabs sound quite good. It's got an IR loader too, so you can load your own stuff. It's been a minute since I've used it. That's the only. But when they made their smaller little one, the little gig board or whatever they called it, I did a video for that a couple of years ago, and it was really cool too. So I think it's great. Once again, we're talking about, it's like the difference between, the Lexus and the Infinity and the, whatever Honda's upper end, it's like, yeah, they're all nice units that you can get great tones out of. 11 rack. That's it. Yeah. Somebody's saying 11 rack. Yeah, it sounds good. I always like the Marshall in the 11 rack. I thought it was good. And I like the Marshall because I'm a Marshall guy. So, anyways, good solid pieces of gear. And I did a video recently on their cabinets, which I quite like. They're full range cabinets. And yeah, Volume Academy is there in the super chat. Thank you, my friend. And he says, love watching you play with Ian Thornley. Did you pick up any new tricks working with him for the SUR videos? That guy is so inspiring. I mean, more than maybe just any tricks I picked up from him. That was like my album of 2013 or 2014 was listening to, I can remember 2013 listening to Albatross, like in France. I can remember walking around listening to that on my iPod or whatever, iPhone headphones, and just like loving that record. And like, that was my record of that year that I really bonded with and thought it was great. I got to give you guys a great recommendation for a record this week. Ian is I'm going to show you the album. Ian is a really, really amazing guitar player. So it's, mind-blowing guitar player, really. And he just writes great songs and plays incredible guitar, and he's a force. It's amazing. So what did I pick up from him? I was so impressed when we did those videos at the SUR party, because I just met him like that day or the day before, I guess. We talked on the phone a little bit and stuff, but that was it. And his ability to walk in and play a guitar that wasn't his, play an amp that wasn't his, play pedals that weren't his. So when you watch him on that, if this is from the Sir Party 2014, I do believe, when you watch him and listen to him with an unfamiliar monitor mix, because he wasn't using in-ears and he'd been used to using in-ears for years, it was just wedges, with a group of guys that he'd never met before, and you watch him play and sing those songs, it's spellbinding. Honestly, his ability, I mean, his tuning, I mixed that recording, by the way. So they gave me the tracks after we did the show and I mixed it. There's no tuning going on the vocal or anything like that. What you're hearing is him just, I mean, almost his singing was almost the most amazing thing to me. Like, and because of course mixing and I've got it isolated, and, you know, and his ability to go in and sing live like that, in an unfamiliar setting and play like he did was amazing, you know. And I don't know, he's a consummate professional, an amazing guitar player, amazing singer, great songwriter, and we're lucky to have that kind of great rock music around these days, you know. Another great album I want to give props to this week. It's my favorite new record. Band I toured with 20 years ago, Blinker the Star. So it's my friend Jordan Zadarozny from Canada. Juvenile Universe, who some of you Canadians out there might say, that title sounds familiar. This record is so quintessentially Canadian and awesome. And it's amazing sounding. If you like Max Webster and Old Rush, but also there's an indie rock bent to it that is amazing, because he was always a big My Bloody Valentine fan. And the record that I toured on was called August Everywhere, and it was produced by Ken Andrews, who those out there know, if the, you know, Failure. Ken is, you know, amazing artist in his own right. So there's a lot of cool pedigree going on here, and he's got a lot of great influences. Jordan from Blinker the Star also worked with Lindsey Buckingham, who produced some tracks for him that were really cool. Anyway, you want to hear a great record, man? Like, this record, holy shit, is it a good record. Listen to the song. Okay, so the first track, and I will warn you, it comes on at about 43 seconds. It blows up, and so turn your speakers down, because it starts very quiet with piano, and then it kind of goes boom and comes in, which is awesome. But if you're turned up loud, just so you know. But it's a great sound that reminds me of almost Moving Pictures or Signals era Rush, the sound of the music. It sounds so warm and analog with the guitars kicking in and stuff. And there's a synth pulsing thing that happens. It just sucks you in. And I haven't been able to get the song out of my head for a week, actually. But there's everything from like power pop on here to like what is like progressive. Cairo. Listen to the song Cairo. There, it's track number 5. Whoa, man. Like it's droney, and there's this one note kind of drone going on, and then there's strings on it. There's violin and maybe cello or something, but and the guitar and everything that happens. The melodies, the vocal melodies, holy shit, man, it's cool. He layers these melodies and stuff, and just melodically, it's very Eastern sounding. And it's really good, man. So this great record, Juvenile Universe, Blinker the Star. Give it a listen after this. And it's one of those records that'll grow on you too. First listen, it'll probably hit you and you go, whoa, this is cool. And then let's talk in a week. And I bet you've been listening to it all week. Especially Volume Academy, you in Canada. Check it out, because it's you're Canadian, and I don't know, it's a distinctly Canadian sounding record. If you like good old Canadian, cool, creative, you know, it's cool, man. So Stealth Parrot says, queued it up after this live stream. Awesome. Yeah, it's great music. Really great music. So I'm excited to hear a new song that I really dig. DW says, thoughts on the new Greta Van Fleet single, My Way Soon. Okay, I haven't checked that out, so I should give it a listen. My Way Soon. In here to listen to after there's a video for it, so I'll check that out and give it a listen. I haven't heard it yet. Do I like the Mesa Boogie head track? Please look it up. I haven't. That's a Braxall. I haven't tried that thing, so I don't know. Honestly, I just don't know. It does have a Rush feel, says David Lee. Yeah, there's like a Rush thing, but also like indie, you know? It's like this distinctly, because he loves Sloan and all the great Canadian indie stuff, you know? And he's like all of us, a product of his influences, but the 70s and 80s runs deep with Jordan. He's not afraid to hit the chorus pedal. And yeah, so you know, it's a terrific record. Check out his solos too. The solo on the first song is so perfect, you know, and the way he does a thing a lot where he bends down from, which I do, you know, and he plays these really deliberate, cool guitar solos that are so memorable and with cool tones and just the right solo to play without any BS, you know, like, so check it out. It's so good. He's more than just a guitar player, though. That's for sure. I mean, it's just, I think he might have played, I don't know if he played drums on the record or not. He may have, because I think he plays drums too. But I'm sure most of the record is probably, you know, written, composed, performed, mixed, and everything by him. I'm not 100% sure about mixed, but Plexico says, how would you change the streaming business model so artists are paid what they deserve? You know, I honestly, I just have this feeling like I don't have any idea. And for me, making a living playing music is about other things at this point. How do you do that? You know, maybe, you know, artists doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is talking to you guys one-on-one, and you're keeping it small, but keeping it all. Like if I asked you guys, okay, I put out a new record and it's like, okay, it's on my website. You can stream it or you can, you know, download it. And, you know, I'm sure if I went to you directly, a lot of you out there would be like, yeah, I'll support him, because you do already. You support me by being here and being in the super chat and everything you do. So if I was like, look, this is the only way that I like streaming it, I'll never see anything. If you were to go to my website, you can get it. It's $9.99 or whatever, like a new album. I bet a lot of you would do it. You know, because you guys are cool that way. And a lot of fans are cool that way. I would do it too, for if somebody asked me to do that. If Jordan said, I've got it on Apple Music here, I pay for Apple Music every month, so I'll stream it or whatever. But if he said, hey, will you go buy it? I'll go buy it, you know. If he's like, here it is, I don't know if it is, but like you can download it or whatever. That's a way to support directly, you know. And when you do that, and then all the other ways of earning income these days, the pinnacle is obviously Joe Bonamassa, who could say the pinnacle, or I love Joe. The emails I've signed up to his mailing list, and I generally get 2 a day. It's a lot of emails, but he knows that, and he's got his fans, and you know, he you know, you can get everything from him, from flip-flops to Christmas cutting boards to, you know, that's how Joe does his business these days. And we all know it. And some people think it's, you know, maybe excessive, and hey man, more power to him. He's making a living as a musician, and I can actually use a new cutting board, because I was cutting my turkey this year on a plate, and I was like, you know, I actually thought I could use that Bonamassa cutting board right now. And I could use a 335 cutting board, because that's just cool, you know. So there you go. It's like, thank you, Greg T, for the super sticker. This is what I'm talking about. It's like that direct support way. Like I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist, and I just don't know that there's a model to, as far as the, you know, how we used to buy records and selling millions of copies, and that's how artists make their money. I don't think it's that. I don't know that that's coming back, you know, unless it's you're on your own, you know, you do your own thing via your website. You have your 1,000 or 2,000 or maybe 10,000 or 100,000 worldwide fans signed up, and you appeal to them directly. If you like my music, this is the way to support me, and a lot of them will go do it, and then you'll be fine, you know. And there's other ways these days to make a decent income playing music, and it'll maybe never be, you know, Michael Jackson level or Beatles level income or something like that, you know. But who needs a Neverland Ranch anyways, you know? What's wrong with a split level in Rancho Cucamonga? Make your music, and I don't know. I'm just being a realist and an optimist at the same time, I hope, you know. I don't know. Cushman says that my hair is getting long. It is. I'm just not touching it. I've committed to at least March before I get a haircut. And who knows then if I'll even be able to get a haircut, because I live in LA and everything's shut down because there's, you know, however many new cases a day with the pandemic and everything. And nobody's able to do anything at the moment. So I just figure this is the chance. Just let it go. Let's see what happens. It hasn't got up and left. So why don't we just roll with it? What's the temperature, says John? You know, it's supposed to rain tonight, which would be amazing. It sort of spit the other day for 10 minutes in LA, but it really hasn't rained in, like, I don't know, 10 years or something. So tonight is supposed to rain all night. Let's hope that happens. But yeah, it's like 60 degrees today, and it'll probably go down to 40s tonight, which is, for LA, it's like, ooh, it's winter. It's cold. So, yeah. You guys are talking about great Canadian music. I love this. And, I always got to come around to the Canadians. Headpins and Chilliwack, I've seen mentioned. Good stuff. So Jordan's carrying on the. I'm telling you, this Juvenile Universe album is a great Canadian record. He made a great record. You're gonna dig it. It's cool. If you like it, the sound is great. Like it sounds really good, really analog, and I don't know, it's nice. Check out the sound of the first tune when it kicks in. It's like, oh yeah, that's good. It's just this. Ooh, it's cool. Like, I love that. I don't know how even the analog. It sounds like a Moog and chorusy, dirty Alexi Lifeson-y, circa 1982. Oh, that's good. So there's still 560 people online, so I'm not going to stop. Why would I? I know I've got somebody stopping by it too, so I'll have to go in a little bit here. But Be Glory or Peace says it's -11. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit? Because if that's Fahrenheit, my God, man, it's an emergency. Kim Mitchell says, John, yeah, Max Webster. Well, that's why Juvenile Universe. He was supposed to have Kim play on it, evidently. For those that don't know, Max Webster's a great Canadian band that sounds like a quintessentially Canadian Frank Zappa meets I don't know what. They were a totally unique band. There's no comparison, really. But Kim Mitchell was the lead singer, and then Kim Mitchell went on to have a great career in Canada doing songs like Go for a Soda, which you may have heard if you live in the tri-state area. No, I don't know. If you're up around Detroit or something, you know who I'm talking about. But a lot of folks in the States probably don't even know Kim Mitchell. He's a legend rocker in Canada for sure. Steve says Harem Scarum, great band. Pete Lesperance. Yes, I had a drink with that guy a little while ago. Mike Turner from Our Lady Peace. Pete and I all hung out in Toronto a little over a year ago and had a beverage, and it was really nice to meet him. I'd never met him before. Good Canadian times. Jason Tong is up there in the super chat, and he says, Sir, signature Pete Thorn guitar, favorite color? Looking at getting one, can't decide. Do love the black. I love the black too. I think red is my favorite, honestly. I love them all, but I think red is my favorite. But I just really like red guitars. You notice I've got another, I've got a lot of red guitars around lately. So black's cool though, and the back is red. So the black is super classy. There's no doubt about it. That was my first, I wanted black with the red back. And really it was, I liked the black top Les Pauls that I'd seen that had natural backs. And I wanted the back to be natural, like see-through wood, but be, see-through red tint. Now, Ian Thornley got a modern around the same time, maybe a year before I got that guitar. And I saw it in a photo. And then he gave me shit about it later when he's like, oh yeah, who gave you the idea for the red back there? Because he had a modern with it, but his was candy apple on the back. And I literally, he said it at Sir, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Did I steal that from you? And it wasn't intentional. I swear to God, it wasn't intentional. He probably still doesn't believe me. But anyways, these things happen, and I got it stuck in my cranium, I guess. And I was like, black with natural back, but red, that'll be cool. Maybe I did, It wasn't intentional, but it was funny. He gave me a ribbing about it. I'd go for the garnet red. I think it's amazing looking. That's just me. But anyways, Disco Scotty says my wife has 3 herniated discs in her back. Man, that sucks. Hope she gets well soon. Save something nice to make her feel better. I can tell you that you're on the road to recovery. I've known many folks with herniated disc. My father had one. My buddy Al. It can be a little bit of a long road, but all those people I knew recovered. So you're going to get there. Just do what the doctors say. I guess Advil is your friend, or naproxen. And it just takes time, But man, nothing will make you appreciate your good health when you have it, like going through something like that, right? Like the pain of, be it, sciatic or herniated disc or any of that stuff. It just make you, it's hard to do anything. So I do understand. Well, I had a little sciatic thing once, so that's the best I understand. Herniated disc, I think, is next level. So I'm sorry to hear that. Get well soon. All right, a few more minutes, and then I'm going to split. 560 people still online. We love you all. Thank you for being here. Harley says, gracious with a question. I know I have to ask this, but can you demonstrate a side angle of your wrist for your bending vibrato? Bending vibrato. So like when I bend and I like, you mean when I guess it's just that. And I'm when I'm, you know, I'm like supporting with the first and second finger, third finger bender. Or if I'm doing the second finger, I'm just like that. And you gotta, I always recommend, you know, you bend, and you can even use a tuner for this, but just really listen and like bend, get to the note, drop, bend, get to the note, you know, whatever, like fall off and come back and make sure you nail the pitch, you know, because it's such a big part of your voice on the guitar. You know, and make it nice and controlled. You don't work on it until you've really got the, you know, Gilmore. Learn Gilmore solos. Basically, you know. Another brick in the wall. If you can play that, you can do anything. Another great bender vibrato guy is Ty Tabor. I love how he bends, hits a note, holds it, and then vibratos. Long, slow bend, hit the pitch, and then shake. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. I like it. Okay. Guitars for your project. Thank you. All you guys for doing the super chat. I really appreciate it. What's the white amp? Another Jimino. No, that white amp is a Laboga amp. It's like a 50-watt modded Marshall situation from Poland, actually. Nice man from Poland sent it to me to check out. It's cool. It's got a kind of a, it's got its own thing. Gainy is a clean channel, and then it's got a, you know, modded Marshall, I don't know, maybe AFD kind of thing going on or something. Yeah. Awesome show today, says Rocamp. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. That guitar was not signature. What was it? The red one? That's from Yuka. This is my Sir Classic that I spec'd out with the, you know, it's got a bird's eye roasted, beautiful bird's eye neck. And it's a classic that's, I don't know what the color is. I think it's candy apple, or I guess it's candy apple or close to it. Look at that thing. It's cool. So 21 frets, super strats, situations. The neck is copied off my old Jackson. I won't talk about it too much because I've talked about it at length on the show, but it's digitized off my guitar that I grew up playing, that I used in a recent video. And it's a, you know, thin Charvelli sort of profile on this guitar. Yeah. Got the Wilkinson lock saddles. They did a beautiful job aging this guitar. If you order a guitar and you want Sir to age it and you don't want it too over the top or whatever, you could reference this guitar and they will know what you're talking about from your dealer. Just say, I want it like Pete's Red Classic that he uses all the time. The checking on it's really nice, and I love how it's not too over the top as far as the aging goes. Because when it gets a little aggressive as far as the aging, I don't like that look as much. But this one is just right. They did a really, really nice job on it, I think. So, yeah. Yeah. A couple top chats. Peter Evans says, Pete, is that a new chair? Yes. So for those that came late, this is my new chair that I got as a gift for Christmas from Britt. It's a awesome IKEA situations. Lumbar, nice support that you can actually slide up and down if you want to. This goes up and down, and this is amazing. I was saying it feels like a premium economy airplane seat with good lumbar support. It's so much better, and it doesn't squeak. I'm super stoked. Thank you, Peter. All you Top Chat folks, you guys are too kind. You're very supportive. Kevin Lee, you guys, thank you. And David, thank you. You're making it possible for me to eat beyond my leftovers this week. I got leftover. I don't know about you guys, but I got for Christmas, I got a Whole Foods, the turkey supposed to feed 4 and mashed potatoes and stuff. Well, there was only 2 of us, and I swear you could feed 6 easily. So I've got leftovers for like so much turkey left, and so I've been rocking that. Any New Year's Eve plans, says Steven. Stay home, man. That's my plan. I'm staying home and staying away from everybody, and I'll watch whatever's on TV that night, and I'm happy to just hibernate, I think about last year. I had a nice New Year's Eve last year where we literally just walked around Pasadena and had a couple drinks. It's a great Mexican place that I love down there. It's kind of like high-end, really cool Mexican food. And I ended up there having a cocktail and just walked around and just kind of like watched all the... It's in Pasadena, keep in mind, it's the Rose Parade is the next day generally. So what's happening with that this year? God, is there any Rose Parade? I doubt it. With people... I don't know. Maybe there is. Can't be. I haven't even thought about it. But anyway, that happens really close to where I live. And so in Pasadena on New Year's Eve, everybody's getting ready for the parade the next day. Like when I say everybody's getting ready, I mean people are camped out all up and down Colorado Boulevard. They get their spot for the parade because this is a crazy parade. And if you're a parade person, I guess it's like a really big deal every year. So they kind of closed down Colorado Boulevard really. And that combined with all the stuff going on, for New Year's Eve is really fun. It's just fun. You don't have to do anything particular. You can just go out and walk around, and it's nice. It's cool. It's very festive. The IKEA chair. This is the chair. Ian says this. I'm not going to attempt to say that, but if you're Swedish, you can say that. That is the model. If anybody's interested in it, really, I gotta say, it's a great chair. It's a great deal. It's not like $100 chair. It was, I believe they're around $250, but man, is it a nice chair. Your favorite speaker for gain, says Matt. I got to say still, greenback I'm a greenback person. I love greenbacks. I'm a greenback kind of soul, but, and a good old, I love I've got an old Marshall vintage one with blackback 75 Hertz, G12M, from the late 70s. And that's, kind of my favorite cabinet because it's so worn in and it just sounds great. But, of course, there's times when V30s are appropriate. And it's not a bad speaker at all, it's just its own thing. And I'm more of a greenback person, but the V30 is a classic. Rick Biauto is doing a 5-hour stream on New Year's Eve. That's a good idea. Maybe you could join in. That's a really terrific idea. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm going to hit him up. See if I can be a part of that. That would be cool. Interesting. Thanks for, I'll try and remember. Guitars for Your Project is up there in the super chat. And he says, did you happen to get my email regarding aux and the SPDIF Sony Philips digital interface or whatever? Your new UAXP doesn't have an RCA type input, so you weren't wrong last week. No, that's true, but somebody pointed out last week that there is a Toslink connector that I never saw. You know what it is? I think I realized was my aux. I never really looked at the back. I just looked around the top and saw the RCA, and I went, "Oh, there's the digital out." So I need to hook that up. The other one's underneath, and it's the same color as the unit. You got to push the thing in you know what I mean, to get to the Toslink connector. So I just never noticed because I'm an idiot. But occasionally I'm an idiot. Relatively often I'm an idiot. But anyways, so you're right. I wasn't totally wrong, but I was sort of wrong, I think. No Rose Parade this year, says Jamalama DD. I hadn't even thought about it, but yeah, it's crazy. This is one of those years, It's like just one of those years. It's a year unlike any other since 1918, excuse me. I wonder if there was a Rose Parade then. Probably not, right? That'd be interesting. I wonder if they had a Rose Parade during the flu pandemic. Favorite tube screamer? You know, that's a great question because there is so many. I got to say that that one I did a video a while ago, the Maxon Apex, is exceptional. It's a really great sounding tube screamer. And it is a little different than others. And I did compare it to a regular TS9 in that video. Although it's an 808, so it's not a totally fair comparison, but it sounded better, at least. Oh, he is kind of spamming, isn't he? Juan, don't spam. I'll answer your question. But my favorite is the Apex, the Maxon, if you check it out. Designed by the original tube screamer designer, who evidently went back and listened to all the different variations and the different chips that are available in them all and stuff, and they decided that that one was the coolest sounding one, and it does sound really great. Yeah. So check that one out. Hi, thank you, Juan. Sometimes that is a good way to. I hate to say it, but it's like, you know. I miss the question sometimes. So sometimes you might have to yell at me a little bit. You're the man, says Juan. Thanks, Juan. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. What was the most challenging part of the Paul Davids challenge? I guess that's Danny asking that question about that little clip. You know, it was like an 8-bar solo, and a bunch of us played our own interpretation of what should happen on an 8-bar solo. For me, it was realizing that I shouldn't play over the da 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 line that's in the middle, you know, that I should lock up on that. Sometimes when you're playing over top of, and I do this a lot in my own music, where I'm playing over top of something, unless it's really basic, like a droney 8th note thing or whatever, if there's other riffs going on the bass or on the, you know, rhythm guitar, if it does something, sometimes I'll want to lock up with it in my solo because I feel like it clouds the music too much. Sorry. To not do that. So it's like, that was the part where I realized I was playing on top of it and there was this slightly busy chromatic line going on, and that I should probably harmonize and lock up on that. And that would be the most musical thing to do in that part. So I figured it out and did that. And then, you know, tried to improvise a little bit. But you know, my solo is, I'm sure with most people that listened to it a few times and then went, you know, you sing the idea in your head or whatever. But that was the part, I guess, where I was like, okay, I need to do that. It wasn't that it was super challenging, but it was like, I would say that it was the paying attention, listening to the music, you know, and making sure I didn't just blow licks on top of, you know, lock up and do something melodic and memorable there. That Matt says that he doesn't see me being challenged. Dude, I'm challenged every day. Every time I pick up the guitar, it takes me a half an hour to warm up. I'm like, oh, is it going to get there today? You know, where it's like, you know, and I'm totally challenged by when I hear, you know, all kinds of stuff on the guitar that I can't do all the time. So, you know, we've all got stuff to learn. They say it never ends, you know, it never ends. So, my young boys thought you were the best of the bunch. Thanks, John. On that solo, you know, I thought everybody played really interesting stuff. You know, like a lot of folks, I guess I thought Chris was the, you know, his phrasing's so beautiful. You know, but a lot of great lines in there and cool ideas that folks came up with and stuff. I thought it was really cool. So, yeah, Chris was really outstanding. He's such a great guitar player. Which compressor do you like better, the Cali 76 or Koji? You know, I like them both. That's great because you just named two different compressors. The Koji to me is like a very smooth studio kind of compressor with a long release, and it's got a very natural tail to it. And the Cali is a bit more like that quick attack 1176 thing. They both have quite a few controls, so they're both quite tweakable. The Koji, I would say, great for the 80s compressed, more like rack compressor sound. The Cali 76, maybe with its dry through and all that control, even though I guess the Koji has that too, but there's something about the Cali 76 where you can get you can do that fast 1176 style thing, but you can also do a kind of like transparent with the dry mix, you know, and let the dry signal through for all the punch and stuff like that. So that if you want to get like, is it compressed? Is it not compressed? You know, or like you want it to sound or feel overdriven, but not sound obviously compressed. You can get that out of the Cali 76 really easy. and I like that about it. Does that make sense? So for the Landau thing, you know, or like 80s Landau thing or whatever, like maybe the Koji, more of that clean compression, you know. The Cali will do the dirty, like actually, like, you know, if you want to play like slightly edgy, you know, Tom Petty-ish rhythms or something, you can get that out of the Cali, like almost boosting. And for, you know, yeah. Can you talk about the humbucker and the red guitar? It's not right now, but later on. That's Steven. It's just something I mess with a little bit. Yeah. Todd Roy wants Richie Kotzen on my show. I will hit him up. We say this for like the last 6 months. I know. I suck. I'm sorry. Does one need several compressors, says L. Scott Music? Well, yeah, I mean, I have 2 on my board. You know, I have the unit 70, what's it called? Unit 67, excuse me. This one, which is, okay, so this is like a Rangemaster style boost with bass and treble, clean boost on this knob, and then it's got a 1176 style compressor in there. This is a great, just more like a dirty boost kind of thing, colored boost with compression. So I want to hit the front end of my amp and crunch it up a little bit, but also get some sustain. And I don't want to hit an overdrive, you know, but I want enough sustain and color to kind of play some signature licks through or whatever. This is great. The Wampler Ego Comp is the other one I have on my board, and that is more my standard clean compressor. So think of it like colored compressor with kicking the amp, or the clean compression pretty thing with chorus or whatever. Those are the 2 different types of compression I think of when I think of compressors for guitar. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. The original version of that, I guess, might be the Keeley versus the Dynacomp or Ross or something, like one of those real colored compressors with, you know, some almost like a dirty vibe to it, or the Keeley, which was like the first kind of like the 4 knob or whatever, you know, was the kind of the first deluxe, you know, like boutique-y, you know. So I'm gonna run. I am gonna run because it's been 2.5 hours now, so I'm gonna go. But a couple more questions, and I'll split. Somebody was asking about Marshall tubes. I missed it. Please tell me about the 3 preamp tubes in your Marshall and order they are in and model. That's Braxall. Okay, so I have in Marshalls. I think if you're asking about like what I use for different types of tubes, I love a Bugle Boy in V1, a Mullard in V2, and in 3 it can be the phase inverter. It can be a long plate like an LPS is fine. The Sovtech sound great. That's my favorite combo. If it was all Mullards, I'd be fine with that. If it was an RFT in V1, cool, a little darker and gainy, you know. I love the Bugle Boy though, so that's my favorite. I'll just skip quickly here. Can you go through the difference between the now big 3 Friedman pedals, BEOD, Dirty Shirley, and now the small box? I think there's probably some crossover there with the small box and the Dirty Shirley. And I can't really articulate exactly what, but they're both kind of a nice medium gain drive that does the Marshall-y thing. I don't know how different they are. I haven't directly A/B'd them, but the BEOD is a much higher gain affair. So it's much more the modded Marshall. If you wanted to sound like a 50 watt, you know, small box, you know, kind of that rock tone, but not be over the top modded tone, go for the small box or maybe the Dirty Shirley. And then if you want the modded high gain, you know, more metal or more shred, the BEOD. What do you like better, the Carvin Legacy or the Synergy modules? You know, there's a Legacy around here, and I might compare that because I have to make a video of the Steve Vai module, which really sounds quite good. The Steve Vai module has his distinct kind of lead sound, which is really unique. Has an interesting sound to it. That's kind of a warm but slightly mid-scoop thing. And the clean channel on his module has a really hyper blackface Fender sound to it. That's very nice for clean stuff. It was really, I wasn't expecting necessarily that that's what it was going to do, but it's got a great, you know, really like, you know, you add a little effects to it, beautiful clean thing. And I guess that makes sense now that I think about what he would use for cleans primarily. I think his sounds, aren't like dirty cleans or, it's generally that thing, and it really is nice for that. So, so long story short, I don't really know. I've got to compare, but I'll know more soon because I think I got to do that and make that video. Steven says, Ernie Ball volume pedal with a tuner. Is there a problem with using a tuner in the loop of a dirty amp? You generally want it to come, if there's too many harmonics going into a tuner, it can futz with it and that's why dirt into a tuner, maybe not, I mean, it can work kind of, but I would generally recommend not doing that. Because I've gone over, I'm getting a phone call. And so just 1 second here. Hello. I'm still online. There's 520 people online.
Okay, well, Jason's almost here, so I got to get in.
Okay, just give me 5 minutes. Bye. I got to run. But long story short, tuner, the best, most pure tuner, this is the last thing I'll say. The best, most pure tuner thing you can do is neck pickup, roll down the tone control. So if you might notice on the bridge pickup on a guitar that it jumps around more. Go to the neck, it's warmer and a fuller sound and generally drives a little harder, and you get a more stable tuner sound. You want it really stable, roll the tone control off. And you'll notice the tuner is just, because you rolled that off all the high end and you only get that fundamental. And that is the most pure sort of tuning you can get. So that'll be my last tip for today is try it. Neck pickup, super woolly tone, and that'll give you the most accurate tuner thing that you can get. I've got a split. Somebody here, so I got to go. You guys, thank you so much for doing the super chat this week. And I will see you next week. What is it, Sunday? It'll be the new year. It'll be 2021 already. That's crazy. And thanks for being here for my 150th show. 151 will be in 2021. You guys are the best. Stay safe out there. Listen to the Blink of the Star Juvenile Universe album. Get back to me. Tell me that's not a great record. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. Somebody's up there in the super chat. It's Paul. Thanks for 150 live shows. He says, happy and safe 2021. And to you guys too. I wish you the best for the new year, and let's all hang in 1 week and it'll be the new year. It's going to be great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to you all. I appreciate it.